and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody from all around the world, hello and welcome to another episode of The World Report with me, your host, Jean-Luc Welch. Let's make some noise. Everybody, clap it up, get excited wherever you are. We're back, we're here, we're live on a Tuesday afternoon, covering the world of boxing and beyond, as we have a whole host of topics and conversation, discussion, and debate that we will be getting into on today. More reactions to the news from last week of Keyshawn Davis getting, or essentially ducking his fight with the likes of Devin Haney. Also, when it comes to the fights over the weekend with Murataya beating Keyshawn and Lamont Roach getting upset by the likes of William Zepeda, all in an effort to see who will reign supreme at 135. And this really deep and diverse division, and some people moving in and some people moving out of not just the standings, but the division as a whole. Don't forget, Mary Murataya won against Keyshawn, and he potentially is looking to move up and out of said division into the world of 140 pounds and or above. All of this and more we're going to be discussing with you all today, on top of the rest of the sports landscape. We talk boxing and beyond right here on this show. But if you're tuning in and you like what we got going on, go ahead and come through and subscribe to the channel. That's right, be a part of the hottest show in all of the globe right here on YouTube and on every podcasting platform imaginable. You can rate us 5 stars on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You name it, we are there to be able to be wherever you need to be to listen and have yourself entertained in the best way possible. Be sure to hit a like on the stream. One like makes a world of difference on this channel to help us to grow, flourish, and shine as a community and to reach the masses all across the globe. Also, if you'll be so kind as to go through and put your chats in the comment section. We want to hear from you in all regards of our talk, of our debate, of our conversation. Add your voice to our show if you would be so kind. We want to hear from you, and please be sure, if you can, support the channel. Hey, we got Cash App, PayPal, links down below in the description. Super chat, super gift, stickers, and all that stuff if you can support the channel monetarily. Because we're like people, yes, we're funded by viewers like you to help make this thing also possible. And please be sure to do the most important thing on this channel, which is to go through and share the show with everybody that you know, so we can keep on building up this empire together and growing and flourishing and shining and reaching not just the masses, but turning us into the hottest show in all of the globe, where we take over the media landscape and have ourselves become a dominant force in the social media ethos and atmosphere. But we appreciate you tuning in. We're so happy that you're here with us on today. And we got boxing to cover. We got sports to delve into. We got your voices to hear. And we got so much stuff to debate. So with all that being said, it's time to talk boxing. It's time to talk sports. And it's time to start the show and to step into the ring. Yes, sir. Let's get it started. Ring the bell. It's time to work. Round 1 of this show going underway, and the biggest talking point of our show that we'll start with was the fight over the weekend, one of the biggest of which being the likes of William Zepeda versus Lamont Roach, and William Zepeda beating in an upset victory Lamont Roach to become the new 135-pound WBC champion of the world, being now one of the 4 big kahunas in all of the boxing landscape at the lightweight division. And it was a very, I'm not going to lie, this fight was pretty doggone dominant for what we thought was going to be a win for Lamont Roach. And to be clear, hey, I will eat my own crow and tell the world that I was wrong. I was wrong. Oh my. Oh, it don't happen often, but it happened today. I was wrong about this fight, and I picked Lamont Roach to be able to win by unanimous decision. But I was sorely mistaken in looking at what we see as an incredibly good, dare I say better than before, William Zepeda coming in on the night, and Lamont Roach lost outright. What was it, 117? I think it was a 117, 111, and 118, 110 on just about all the scorecards. I think 2 of them had it 117, 111, and 1 of them had it 118. Either way, it was a dominant victory. It was a clean, not clean sweep, but a clean dominant win. And William Zepeda, we got to say this, brother, This cat is good. This cat's good. And we're not saying he wasn't good before, but we have to look at the landscape of the talking points surrounding William Zepeda before going into this fight. And be clear, hold on, give me 1 second. Let me fix my camera just a tad so we're not as... Actually, there we go. Okay, there we go. Now we're looking good. But then let's put into perspective what we were talking about with William Zepeda before. Zepeda was a good fighter. Don't get it twisted. He was always seen as respected. He was always seen as somebody that is one of the better fighters up here at 135. Looking as one of the, we could call him an elite fighter, though people may not have viewed him at the top of said totem pole. After his loss to Shakur Stevenson, the dominant loss that he had to Shakur, not in a disrespectful manner, but we saw Shakur legitimately beat him at his own game and still outbox him incredibly well. It made people feel, oh, William Zepeda, yeah, that was a good win, but he just ain't what got made to look very much pedestrian, very much mundane. Depending on how people felt about Tevin Farmer, with all the wars that Tevin Farmer and Zepeda had against each other, it was going to be seen, hey, you shouldn't be struggling against the likes of Tevin Farmer. Even though we say Tevin Farmer is a good fighter. On the public stage, especially in light of what we saw with Schofield knocking out Tevin Farmer, ripple effects began to ensue and somewhat affect the reputation of the likes of William Zepeda. Whether or not it's fair or not, this doesn't mean that we were degrading Zepeda's ability, but this is us saying there's a reason why many of us were looking at the likes of Roach, with him drawing with Isaac Cruz at 140, getting a draw against the Tank Davis in a fight that he should have won, going into Zepeda as this should be a type of competition that you should be able to handle with the skills that you showed up there and down here in your last two fights against what we definitively say was elite competition. And this was the crossroads for Lamont Roach. Is Lamont overhyped? Was Lamont Roach seen as somebody who was indeed a really good fighter, or somebody that just had a slew of good wins in light of a, struck gold at the right time, but in actuality is not really all that in the framework of boxing? There was a big debate as to what the skill set of Lamont was, and I was on the side of this brother's good. It is. Zepeda just got better. Zepeda just got better. Whatever you may have felt about Zepeda in the past, we got to revamp it now. That loss to Shakur did not show, oh, this brother just can't fight. It showed there's levels to this game. But Zepeda is a incredibly hard fighter to beat. And this fight showed it, because Lamont Roach had no answer. He had no answer for the pressure. He had no answer for the reach. He had no answer for the same size, or even if we're going to be honest, Zepeda looked like he might have been bigger than Lamont Roach on this night. And Zepeda didn't just fight him with all-out aggression, volume, and consistent punching. Yes, he swelled up his face. Yes, he swelled up I believe his right eye, or left eye, when he was going through. Yes, he was able to go and beat him to the punch. But also, he was boxing Lamont Roach in a way that Roach could not compete. Roach didn't just get beat on the inside in Zepeda's own Woodhouse. Roach got beat outright in a game of mid-range technical work. Zepeda was actually switching up his rhythm. The brother was actually moving. He was actually using distance in a way that, and footwork in a way that many people felt we did not see this coming from the landscape of William Zepeda. There's a whole world where we just thought William Zepeda was simply a voluminous puncher. That was his biggest MO. But since we've seen him fight against Shakur, I think this is his first or second fight back. This is the most retooled level Zepeda. Beyond just, he just showed he was a better fighter. He showed elements to his game that we said were not a big criteria for him to use as a fighter. Mainly because it wasn't him as a fighter. And he's got it now. He does. And William Zepeda is a vastly dangerous threat now for the rest of the division. Not just because of this win, but because of what he showed against a fighter in Lamont Roach, who was able to stand toe-to-toe with the two biggest punchers in the respective divisions in Tank and Isaac Cruz at 140 and 135. So William Zepeda was able to essentially get whatever he wanted when he was fighting Lamont Roach. Even in close range and even in that mid-range area. The sweet spot of Lamont, which is when your feet are planted and you're able to be in that, both of y'all can land. Lamont could not get up to the pressure or volume. And when Lamont tried to go and throw some big-time shots, when the fight was turning into the second half, when he needed to get some real big shifts and changes, and he started loading up on stuff, trying to do more damage with his punches, he couldn't hit him. Or if he did hit him, it wasn't in anything that was significant enough to uberly change any momentum. And in fact, in light of him punching bigger, punching more destructively or trying to punch more destructively, he just opened himself more to the game plan of William Zepeda to be able to go through and be able to outwork him. Because Lamont Roach was not able to match the pace when it went up. And his version of upping the pace was just throwing harder, not throwing more. Because he couldn't match that volume. He just kept getting pieced up. Pieced up Kingdom Come. In a way that Tank or Lamont or Isaac couldn't do. William Zepeda is elite. He's been elite. But for people that had some doubts about how good he actually was, this fight showed there's still levels to this game. Just like what Shakur showed against Zepeda, Zepeda showed against Lamont. Because there's no excuse. There's no he was weight drained. There's no he had a bad camp. He was just straight up, he was just better. He was just a better fighter. And this sets up the stuff for Zepeda. What could be next for him down the line? It could be a whole slew of fights, like with Abdullah Mason, which we'll get into later on, but Mason could be next. We could see a fight with him. I wouldn't mind that. Not at all. But the main thing is we got a reigning champ that has validated his claim to fame and ability. Becoming a champion, winning the big ring belt, and having his name garnered with the level of respect that after Shakur may have been left out by some people's minds. Now, it's real. It's real. And the brother himself is really real. Let me see. Love King, how you doing? Good to see you. We thank you for showing up on the show, tuning into our live stream. Hopefully you're having a phenomenal time. Keep on liking the stream if you haven't already, and share the show. Whoever's chatting, whoever's responding, whoever's just listening, we want you to be a part of the conversation and simply spread the love and spread the joy and spread the show to the masses all across the globe. Zepeda surprised that man can fight, and he deserves to be champ. He does, absolutely. I would like to see him fight Pitbull and Tank. And this is the perfect matchup for the next steps for Zepeda. In light of this fight with Isaac Cruz, though Isaac's at 140, I don't know if he's going to go and move up in terms of Zepeda just after winning the title. Tank at 135, now that fight is something that's in the cards that we would want to see. Because he beat Lamont handily. He beat Lamont Roach. And this is Lamont that gave Tank all he can handle. If we want to say that was a one bad night situation, so be it. But either way, that's drawing some intrigue. We have that matchup at 135. We have, again, Mason at 135. I would have said we would have Murataya at 135, but we're going to get into that later. We may not get that fight because Murataya might be looking to move up in his own world of boxing and get into the realm of 140. Going into super lightweight. I believe it's a super lightweight. Yeah, super lightweight, I believe. But we got matchups. We have a lot of matchups. We have somebody that now is a reigning top dog that has the public giving him a real level of shine, which he deserves. Now, Lamont, on the other hand, a little bit different story. Now that Bud is being seen as maybe this cat was just hype. The conversation shifted so quickly. I dare say, if you even go back to listen to other shows that are doing this at the same time, or maybe came on a little bit before we did, you'll probably hear the same talking points said by many. Lamont was never that great. Lamont was never that good. Lamont got lucky, quote unquote. Now, I don't think he got lucky in those wins that he had, or in those draws and performances. But what I do think that we saw is that Lamont Roach was I'm not going to say a product, but part of the reason why he was able to win was because he was able to outmatch the size of some of the opponents. Him saying Tank was too small for him has more validity than we thought. Why? Because the same performance that happened against Tank in terms of he was able to control himself, compose himself, and deal with what was coming at him was happening against Tank and Isaac Cruz. But when he fought against William Zepeda, who was his size and or bigger, with a motor in the same way as Isaac, it was a whole different game. I even brought that up in the whole situation of the fight breakdown. Lamont has been in the ring with Tank, but he was able to build up with him. And Isaac Cruz slowed down in the second half of the fight because of him missing, in part because he's swinging 150% every punch. If you can last up to around 8 or 9, and that buddy starts slowing down, all of a sudden you can see a distinctive shift in what Isaac Cruz has to do, or is able to do. Because now he's running a little bit on empty. Zepeda'S got the reach of a Lamont Roach and or longer, the height of a Shakur and or bigger, but he has the motor of very few in the world of lightweight. And he can go for 12 with the greatest of ease. And he starts out high already from the standpoint of how much he wants to work. Lamont just couldn't contend with that. He doesn't start up quick enough, and he wasn't able to, when he needed to switch it on, go and land the definitive stuff. Because his thing was, I just got to hit harder. But that wasn't going to work because you were getting hit more times than you were able to load up. And it worked out negatively in your favor. It could be that fight with Tank, yes, because you were bigger, you were able to have success. But now, against some of these larger athletes at 135, you start running into some trouble. Potentially. And that might have been why you had some success. It's not me saying that he's just a bum. He's not. But there's now a little bit more better context as to what the performances we saw with Lamont. He's not a scrub by any means. But we know he has a kryptonite now. And what can work against him? Absolutely. I don't think Mason is ready for Zepeda. And that's where this conversation really starts heating up. Because let's talk about it. Let's really get into it. This is where the conversation is really leading to. In regard, we broke down the fight. We broke down what made Lamont lose. We broke down the great win for William Zepeda. He finally became a world champion. We love it and appreciate it. Now, in defending said crown, you are one of 3 other champions, the biggest of which being Abdullah Mason as the most immediate threat to potentially unify the titles and take your belt that people are going to want to call for. Yes, they will. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. They're going to want to see it. The public's going to want to see that fight. And that's got a whole bunch of people looking in the front view window or windshield and saying, we see this clash coming. What's going to happen? And I'm going to tell you this right now. That fight's going to be a fight that's going to be one of the fights of the year, if it does take place, because they both work out of the same mode. Both of them want to scrap more than anything. But the difference is Zepeda might just be better. Or rather, Zepeda is better in a certain element that could make Abdullah Mason very concerned, with what we saw against Lamont Roach. Because Abdullah still is elevating his game. But I think we just saw Zepeda hit a new ceiling in his own boxing life. And that could bring up a whole new conversation for this very fight. And without question. But let me see. Legendary Super Saiyan Jackson, how you doing? Good to see you. Appreciate you joining in on the show. Welcome to the live stream with us on today. And we got so much to discuss. We're reacting to the fights over the weekend as well as what's coming down the line. Starting off with Zepeda going and fighting and beating Lamont Roach. That's the conversation topic right now. I thought Roach would be effective with counterpunching, but it was Zepeda'S volume, and cutting off the ring that handily won him the fight. And again, the boxing. You're absolutely right. It was the boxing of Zepeda that shocked me more than anything. In part, he was able to outwork, outwar, and outthink the likes of Lamont. And his footwork really won him today in a way that I didn't think he had. Now, we're using this fight as a potential fight with Abdullah Mason. What would that look like? And we saw Love King say, we may just see Lamont Roach, or rather, William Zepeda, beat Abdullah Mason if they fought against each other, if this is what we're witnessing. And that is a fair assessment to say. And if you have him as a favorite in terms of William Zepeda versus Lamont, I ain't got no issue with that. You know why? Because at this point in time, like I said before, Zepeda just hit his zenith of current standing of ability. He showed a different gear in talent that we didn't know he had. And it's the biggest gear that can give Mason some trouble. And that is, he's a better boxer than we thought. He was able to outmaneuver a person who was able to handle the likes of Tank and Lamont Roach, on top of still keeping his identity of being a voluminous puncher. Abdullah Mason loves to fight. So does William Zepeda. Abdullah Mason has been shown, though, he can get exposed with boxing. Pure boxing. Like we saw with Albert Bell. He had to turn that fight, or he had to turn that boxing match into a fight to beat Albert Bell. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. He was in trouble against Albert Bell. It was bad. It was bad. That man was down 6-0 going into the second half of the fight on some people's scorecards. He had to turn that fight around, and if he didn't get that knockout, there was a potential chance he might have lost that fight, depending on how you judge the fight. We were in a situation, we saw Abdullah Mason get exposed. Now, I don't say that in a negative manner, but I say that in a sense of reality. Mason was shown there's some boxing elements, some technical ability, from footwork to being able to not just close the distance, but being able to keep himself from just getting pot-shotted consistently without being able to figure out that Rubik's Cube of footwork and length. He couldn't do it until he just hunkered down, went to war, and just bit down on his mouth guard and started saying, I'm going to go and recklessly abandon my need for technique and just out-scrap you. It worked. But we just saw against Zepeda, if you try to go to that same field, it's not going to be easy. You're going to probably get beat. Because guess what? Everybody ain't Shakur Stevenson. And everybody isn't as uniquely skilled as Tevin Farmer, who was a perfect match for the likes of Zepeda when it came to a styles makeup. An elusive fighter that loves to throw in volume versus a voluminous fighter that is tall but likes to fight in close quarters. It was a match made in heaven for that type of makeup, for that type of stylistic fight in the ring. But everybody ain't that. And right now, Zepeda, he can go into the trenches with Abdullah Mason if he needs to. He's not going to be as powerful. He's not going to be as strong. He's not going to be as a one punch, oh, I'm putting you down. But his ability to operate while still being voluminous, it's gonna be something difficult. With now the shown ability of I can box really good. Really good. I got footwork that gave Lamont trouble. And this is a brother who's supposed to be, I can go in the draw at minimum with anybody. I schooled him in a way that not even Tank could. Off night or no off night. There's a difference that we're looking at William Zepeda that Abdullah Mason we would have to be concerned about. Because now we've shown he can fight both ways and still fight within his identity. And if he wants to go and just go boxing, technique for technique with Mason, we may have some problems. And if Mason wants to go bite down, Zepeda can handle himself too. Zepeda is not Sam Noakes. I know Zepeda won't be able to punch like the biggest puncher we've seen Abdullah fight against. But I know he'll have success because when he fought Sam Noakes in that inside, guess what? The most dangerous puncher was still able to land on the gut, on the body, and even land uppercuts and short hooks to the head that were rocking at least the stability of Abdullah Mason in Sam Noakes. He was still eating shots, but he had to eat them because he wasn't going out and just boxing or using that length accordingly because he's still learning those aspects of the game. That's the thing. I thought Roach would be I think I already read that. I believe I already read that shit. Let me see. If Albert Bell had a full camp to fight Mason, he may have had the stamina to stay away and win. Potentially, he could have. Absolutely. If he had been able just to stay up. Shoot, if it had just been one knockdown, just one knockdown, it could have been a whole different situation or a whole new conversation that we could be having in regards to the likes of who's champion right now. Because it could have been a potential loss. Because just the knockdown might not have been enough. We are not going to sit here and overlook the fact that we saw Abdullah Mason put in a dangerous situation that his fighting ability, in terms of his ability just to go for it, almost didn't save him. It did, because he still is a dog, but it almost didn't save him. And now you're looking at an elite fighter, because Zepeda is an elite fighter. You're looking at somebody who just showed you, I can do what gave you the most trouble, and I can rock with you exactly where you want to be. Your best game is my best game, but my secondary game is still better than your overall, because I can box in a way that you can't. Mason's got the speed. Mason's got the power. He's got the range. They're both pretty decent. I think they're both pretty decently even sized. Or if one's a little bit bigger, it's not by much. I got you in the physical element. I can be there. You may be stronger, but I know I can still outthink you, outmaneuver you, outplace you from the standpoint of placing you where I want to go. And if your best bet is to just make it a fight, that's not something that's completely in your favor either. Because I may not be able to punch like other people, but I can punch better than other people. Because I can place them better. I can pick my shots and pick you apart while still throwing copious amounts. And it's going to be something, if you can't get away and you can't put me down, it can get dangerous. It can get really dangerous out here. Let me see. Edwin Rodriguez, how you doing? Good to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Salute to you and everybody else in chat. Please keep on liking the stream and keep on sharing the show. It helps us out also immensely. And hey, if you want to support the channel, we still got Cash App and PayPal. Links down below in the description. And super chats and all this stuff to help us to go and keep this show going without question. Promise you, your channel will be huge. Just keep up the consistent work. Hey man, look, I appreciate it. Hey, look, the kind words will never go unnoticed. We thank you, and we're trying. Like I said, we're trying. We're trying to grow. If we can grow this boxing thing, I can grow talking about basketball. I can grow talking about football. We're trying to be an all sports hub, if we can, with the primary thing being boxing. No, we ain't gonna get away from what got us here. Oh, absolutely not. Because look, that's what y'all want to talk about. But we appreciate it, and we're gonna hopefully be good enough that we can be well-rounded and entertain all and keep on keeping you informed with the news. And I appreciate the well wishes. Like I said, I'm just a humble man trying to do what I can, and hopefully I'm giving you some entertainment. Hopefully. But as we keep on the entertainment going, we have to ask, yes, is Abdullah Mason ready for Zepeda? He's ready in one aspect. He can win the fight, but can he win the boxing match? Abdullah Mason can win the fight versus William Zepeda. I don't doubt that. But can he win the boxing match against William Zepeda? Can his skill set right now handle what we just saw from Zepeda to be able to work without just outright power? And the answer might not be a yes. It could be a no, from what I've seen. And this ain't no disrespect to the likes of Albert Bell, but Albert Bell ain't nowhere near as good as the likes of Zepeda. Yes, a difference in ability For understand, or rather, a difference in, youth and experience as well as just outright skill set. I understand. Late notice, I understand. You weren't fighting with a full camp, I understand. With all of that still, I would be one to say we should have still seen Abdullah Mason be able to either A, box better than we saw that night, or B, more quickly turn that fight around to turn into just an outright war that he abides in the best. And it took too long for both of those sentiments to show up. In fact, only one showed up. We showed he couldn't box with well, but he could turn it into a fight. But even turning it into a fight, it took him nearly too long to get that fight completely flipped into the war that he wanted. There is the maturing that Mason needs to get into. There is some elevation beyond just he just may not be as good of a technical boxer. My whole thing with Abdullah Mason has always been one simple constant. This man's potential, when he reaches it, he will be able to do everything I've been saying his body will allow. The power, the knockout ability, the finisher in him, and the aggression will be his best, most dominant aspect. But also, he'll be able to box with his speed and athleticism and gain better feet. And he'll be one of the better talents from 135, 140, 147 even. I can see him thrive. But what he needs to do to get there is to figure out, beyond just boxing, beyond just the technical ability, he's got to hone his primary weapon. His Sunday punch, as they used to call it way back in the day. Get your best game plan refined if you can't do anything else at the level that you need to. It's going to take time. You can teach a man how to box. I think, was it Max Kellerman? Or somebody, I can't remember who, somebody said it. You can teach a man how to box, but it's hard to teach a man how to fight. You got to know how to fight. You got to know how to fight, but you can teach a man to box. You can hone the skills, but the ability to just go for it, that's something that somewhat you just got to have to be willing to go to that place, because it's a dangerous place to be a finisher. At the same breath, if you do have that skill or you do have that trait in you, you got to refine it. Even if you don't have the best boxing ability, you got to refine that aspect of yourself to make sure you don't run into a situation where if all else fails, this side of me ain't good enough. Perfect example, Isaac Cruz. Isaac Cruz, he's learning, and I say learning, even though he is, a veteran in his career. He has added boxing elements to his game. May not be many, but he's added some. But what he's always done is hone in and refine the already sharp blade of being a hooker. One of the deadliest hooking threats in this division at 135 and 140. One of the most aggressive inside fighters this sport has to offer. He's refined that one trait to make it so if all else fails, I know I always got a shot because of this. Deontay Wilder, but couldn't box for a lick. In fact, he boxed better with Mark Breland, but he kicked that buddy to the curb for no good reason. A lie that he let his camp or the people around him tell him that wasn't true, that caused him to lose what's going to be most likely a Hall of Fame level trainer that could have been in this situation still making him a better fighter. Instead of going with Malik Scott, and we saw what that's turned you into now. But my point is, Wilder was not a great boxer, but he honed, to quote Teddy Atlas, his delivery system. He made sure that one split second that he says is all he needs, he made sure to always have essentially a sniper-like mentality. Literally, his lead hand is the scope, and that right hand was the trigger. And no matter what else failed, I know if you see me go like this, If you line up right, you are gone. Because I know if everything else fails, this is something I can do better than everybody. And up until the bottom fell out from under him, it didn't fail. Even against Tyson Fury, it got to the target. And it always kept him in the fight. That's something that Abdullah Mason, if he is going to fight William Zepeda, that's what he needs to hone in on. If you aren't able to box at the level that you need to, and you can't get that fully ingratiated like you would want to against a better William Zepeda than we've seen before, you need to be sure that you hone your ability to fight more than ever. Because Albert Bell should have been a fight that you should have been able to dominate. Even with less training, even with a short training camp. Albert Bell should have been a fight that you should have been able to dominate quicker than what we saw when you finally turned the fight around. It should not have taken you 11 rounds to go and outdog Albert Bell, knowing Albert Bell did not want to go into a fight with you. And that's because your ability to finish and your ability to up the tempo, up the aggression, and push the pace and get in your opponent's grill should have been a whole lot better. Because that is your wheelhouse. As a champion, that's the expectation. You got to go to that and hold that now. Because at this point, like we said before, you're a champ. You're one of the 4 kings in this division. You got to work against whoever comes your way. And if it turns into William Zepeda, you need to know there's 2 alternatives. Either add something else to your game or heighten what you already got. And the best way right now, you may want to heighten what you already got. Because what that fight's going to be with Zepeda is going to most likely turn into a war. But the issue is, you made it so that you were able to dominate the last half of the fight with Bell. Because Bell is not great at working on the inside. But against Zepeda, your inside work may not be good enough to just pull you away like you would want. Your inside work could be close to what we saw with Sam Noakes, where it's tit for tat. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Zepeda's a better inside worker than Sam Noakes, even if he's not as powerful of a puncher. So what does that mean? You could potentially be put in a situation where you ain't going to be able to will yourself a victory when you're in the range that you want. Because his wheelhouse might just be better than yours. And if it ain't better, it's at least on par. Because he's got more tricks to the trade that he's learned to operate in said wheelhouse. On top of the secondary game of being a better technical boxer, he's been able to turn and be better than you against better people. And now he's even turned that up to a different level. So you could be beat on both fronts and you now don't have the capacity just to fight your way to freedom like you want to. You gonna need to up your game in either one aspect or both. Because if you think that Zepeda is gonna be, I can just get him out of here, you're gonna be dead wrong. I told y'all, that's why I played the clip that William Zepeda was Shakur's toughest matchup, that Shakur even said he made me adapt more than any other opponent. Directly after that fight, Shakur said, go fight him if you don't believe me. Go fight him and see what he's about, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And now we understand. This cat he's a problem. He's a problem. And if we're looking at Mason, he better be ready. Because if this probably comes to him, he might not be able to win all cleanly like he may want to. And it could be a dangerous situation, and he might not be better than him right now. He might not be better than him. Zepeda might be better than Abdullah Mason right now. And that puts 3 people above him. Tank, Zepeda, Murataya. If Murataya stays at 135. Can Abdullah go and potentially beat them? Yes. But as of right now, there's some major concern. Because this landscape's getting deep. And no matter what I said in the past about Mason, which I've said he could be the best brother up here, I'm not going to deny what we witnessed. I'm not going to deny what we saw from him and his cohorts subsequently as we've been talking through and reacting to all these fights. There's some concern. He's not out of the mix. He still is a big-time threat. But we're seeing what he's lacking versus what everybody else has gained and or further developed. And he's young. He's hungry. And he wants to go after it. But Mason is in a real good situation. A real dangerous situation. That if he don't succeed, it could be, it could get sketchy. It could get real sketchy real quick. But again, that's the whole reaction to Zepeda beating Roach, which is incredibly. Oh my gosh, this is shaking up the whole 135-pound division. And now I want to see what happens next. Mark my words, because it's about to be a phenomenal thing. Also, let me see. Callie Monk, how you doing? Good to see you. We thank you so much for tuning in on the show. Can we call in? Not yet. We getting some stuff set up. We're getting some stuff set up to make sure we can screen calls and get things situated so that you can actually, have the ability to come in, but come correct. Because we don't want, because anybody can come up here and all of a sudden be cussing up a storm. Lord knows, we try to be sponsorship friends. We getting some things set up. Don't worry. When we get that fully developed, you're going to hear from us, and we can have you all be able to call and chat on this show. But for right now, the best way to do it is just to chat or just to listen, whatever the case may be. But stay tuned. I'm going to tell you that. Stay tuned for the time being. But let me see. You say you can tell the difference between Mason and Keyshawn based off of one has a father figure in a good family and the other doesn't. Now, granted, family, I don't delve into. I'll say that we've seen family dynamics affect and or enhance the life of a fighter. In some cases, we've seen a fighter who's had family that has been around him, but it's been abysmal for him. Lied on, led astray, messed up, stolen from, and a person who doesn't have the traditional dynamics of a parent household. Next thing you know, they all of a sudden come out better than ever because they say I'll never go down that road again. I don't deny it helps, absolutely. But the actions at some degree do then have to fall on the person. Though we understand outside circumstances can develop. Now, if we want to talk about Keyshawn Davis, we can get to Keyshawn Davis, but just give me about 5 minutes, because I do want to talk about Murataya before we get into the whole conversation with Keyshawn. That's going to be a good, give me about 5 to 10 minutes, because I do want to say Murataya got some news that he's moving up and out of his division and going to 140 outright. That's what he's talking about. So let me get to that first in his fight, and then we can go through and talk about Keyshawn Davis a little bit more. Let me see, Zepeda versus Schofield. Actually, Zepeda versus Schofield, that's a really good fight. That's actually a great fight. I'm not going to lie. That's a perfect fight that makes sense. Now that Zepeda's the champ, Schofield is a number one contender. If Schofield wins his fight for I want to call it the interim belt for the WBA, because he was supposed to fight Tank. He's not fighting Tank because Tank is champion in recess because the brother is still allegedly on the run for an alleged crime of hitting his girlfriend that allegedly was caught on film, that allegedly there's a man on hunt out for him right now. Extraneous situations, as some people may call it. So because of all that alleged situation around Tank, he isn't fighting at all. So Mason's fighting for the interim title, and if he wins, then I would want to see that fight, and that would be very, very good. That would be really, really good. Let me see. Do you think Abdullah Mason would have not listened to his father take that $3 million since he was supposed to fight Keyshawn, not listening to his manager? Now, if you're talking about Abdullah Mason, you're saying would he have not listened to his dad for the $3 million? as opposed to Keyshawn not listening to his manager? Honestly, I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. And I said again, I'll address this real quick and I'll jump back to it. Because like I said, still got to have a schedule. I want to try to get into at least a little bit on Conceição. But would Mason may have made the same decision as Keyshawn? Because in some respect, Keyshawn wanted to bet on himself. Because he might have felt, again, speculating, be clear, speculation. I have no actual source for this information. This is simply me looking at what happened with Keyshawn and Devin Haney and the whole debacle, pulling out the fight, what transpired. Simply me, just simply speculation. And we'll address Conceição and get back to this afterwards. But real quick, Mason might have made the same situation if he felt he deserved more. We've seen other fighters not take fights because, hey, I feel like I'm lowball. I don't know if Mason would have for this amount of money, unless I'm misremembering if Mason's been offered this kind of money before. But I don't remember that not happening, or I don't think he would have not taken this opportunity. But that's me looking at how he's moved throughout his career. Because when he got a championship opportunity, he took it. And he didn't waste time. And he didn't. And when he fought Sam Noakes, who was a big-time threat for his age, he didn't waste time. And right now, he was already going to fight Joe Cordina, who's a very good fighter. He didn't waste time. Albert Belly said, let's keep it pushing. The second he's gotten to the spotlight of being a star, he hasn't wasted it. So I would assume he would have taken the deal because this is what he would have wanted. He fought for this type of moment. But it might have been, he might have felt he was too, if he got there, if he felt he was too big to be lowballed with only $3 million, I deserve more. Maybe he would have made the same decision of, hey, I'll pull out. Because I should be getting more money for what is a big-time major event. A big-time major fight, because I'm a big-time player. But that's just me speculating, because I don't know the mind. And again, we'll find out when Abdul Mason gets in that position, because he's going to get into that position. Mark my words. But again, we will come back to that conversation. But real quick, let me address the likes of Conceição and Murataya. And Murataya moving up from the likes of 135. That's right. That is the official news that seems to be the going sentiment for one of the more dominant fighters up here at 135 at lightweight. Raymond Murataya against a very game Conceição. Robinson Conceição absolutely dominated Conceição. It was a complete 180 from what we saw against Lamont Roach when he fought Zepeda and he just couldn't find an answer. Murataya was able to find every answer in the book. And against somebody who's been in the ring with elite competition, Murataya one-handedly. I think it was 118, 110 on every single scorecard in the unanimous decision to retain his belt, further implementing the reality that Murataya at this division is seen as one of the best in the world and arguably maybe the most talented fighter up here at 135 potential. But even with that reality, there is still some concern and some potential movement. The concern is some people said that Murataya looked a little bit slow. Murataya looked sluggish. If you remember the fight with Murataya when he fought against Andy Cruz, the speedy Olympic medalist who was one of the best technical and slippery guys at 135, undefeated at that point in time, in an incredible Fight of the Year contender. He looked phenomenal. Snappy, poised, incredibly quick with his hands. He could eat the punches of Cruz. He could take shots and trade with better ones. He could even, in some situations, at least in the later half of the fight, when Andy Cruz started to slow down a little bit, match the hand speed of an Andy Cruz and won that fight definitively. Though it was a close effort. This fight, he won it definitively, but it definitely wasn't in the same fashion. There was a little bit of lethargic nature in the body language, the outright style, and the overall the overall notion of what we knew Murataya as. He didn't look as complete of the fighter we had remembered going and winning the championship, and that was calling out the likes of Shakur. He just did. At least not to me. I think Max Keller may have said that same thing as well on his Inside the Ring show. And some other sentiments also about it. The performance was still dominant, but there was a little bit of trepidation that maybe this cat wasn't looking just quite right in some people's eyes, myself included. With that being said, he said he needs to move up. And then now he's struggling making weight at 135. And I think that's why we saw what we saw even in the dominant performance. And if that's the case, moving up to 140 could be the best thing for Ray Murataya to go through and accomplish. It could. Because he's already, again, he isn't losing his position. He will still be able to get the names like Mason and others once they moved up, because it probably won't be long before they start moving up as well. But Murataya has been, longer than I expected, been in this division and been able to work just fine. But now, it's time to move up, move out, and get to new territory. And if he's really pressing the issue to want to fight Shakur Stevens, if he's really trying to get that work in, well, now is the time to make it happen. Now's the time to go for it, especially since he's on an island by himself with Zuffa. I'm not saying your contract is up, but I am saying that you going up to his division with everybody else right now potentially locked up, you could be the guy that finally gets your shot. Because that would be the best name outside of Conor Benn, outside of Richardson Hitchens, and outside of El Rayo, that if there was an external fight that's available to make, you could make. Because Conor Benn's locked up. El Rayo is just off a fight and he might not be cleared to fight for another couple months, potentially. Even though he won a knockout in 2 rounds against De Los Santos. And you already had the people clamoring, we wouldn't be mad at that fight. We could see that happen. But that's what's going on with Murataya. He's moving up to 140, almost assuredly. And if so, I'd be mighty excited. I'd be mighty excited for it. Let me see. Sound of Frog? What's good with you? How you doing? Good, appreciate you tuning in. I'm glad you're here, and hopefully you're enjoying the show. And we hope you're having a wonderful time right here on the Welch Report. Keep on liking and keep on sharing the stream. Let me see. Bro, I was, oh Lord. You switched to find me? Hey, man. Well, hey, look, whatever the case may be, you know what? Whatever I interrupted, I'm sorry. Oh my, I'll just say this. Whatever the case. Y'all are crazy. This is why we're going to have some people, this is why we're going to need to have some people modding for these calls. Because look, I'm glad that you're here, Frog, but doggone it, if we had that on audio, that'd be terrible. See, where you at? You see what I'm saying? This is why. Look, again, I'm glad y'all are here. We be having fun and joking. We try to keep it clean. You know what? Hey, look, this is the joy, the joys of unfiltered. The joys of unfiltered chat. Ain't it great? See, that's why I caught myself. Because I had to make sure. I had to make sure. I had to make sure we had to talk about, look, I know I'm a good looking brother. I'll say that right now. Hey, look, I know. I come from a long line of brothers that just been killing the game. So you know what? I get it. I understand. I don't toot my own horn, but I just had an effect on people sometimes. Chiseled jawline, caramel skin, hair. I don't look tomorrow or Thursday when I get my hair cut. Ooh, buddy! Oh, I'm gonna be killing everybody. Hide everybody. Put everybody in the room, cause I'm gonna be absolute. I'm gonna look like what's that brother? What's that brother from not Law and Order? I'm gonna look like I'm gonna look like Denzel Washington from the Mighty Quinn. That's what I'm gonna look like. When I get, I'm gonna look when I get back on Thursday. I'm gonna look like Denzel from the Mighty Quinn or Deja Vu. I'm gonna look like well, maybe not Deja Vu. Maybe not Deja Vu. I think he had a grown out here. Even better. I'm gonna look like Malcolm X. I already got the glasses. I'm gonna look like Malcolm X for when Denzel played him. I'm gonna be a bad brother. Don't let my mustache and goatee connect. Oh, buddy, I'm gonna be a bad man. I'm gonna be a bad man. But look, we're just joking. We're just having fun. We're just having a good time. And we, hopefully, for whatever you're doing, you having a good time here on our show. Didn't Shakur say multiple times that he has no interest at all in fighting Murataya? And you know what? That's a good point. Again, going back to the conversation at hand, and we appreciate all of you being here in chat for whatever reasons you may be. We appreciate it. But Shakur did say, I don't want no business fighting Murataya. I'm not interested, not necessarily a big fight, and whatever the case may be. I am interested in going and fighting against 130, getting a title at 135, but against Murataya, not my biggest focus right now. His words in terms of Shakur, and at this point, he may not have a choice. And this is actually a perfect segue into the other topic of discussion for our show is Shakur Stevenson. Because if Murataya is moving up to 135 to 140, that would only signify that the only other opportunity for the likes of Shakur to fight a named opponent would include Murataya back into this equation, because it would have to, because everybody else is either locked up or not fitting the bill of a fight that would garner the investment of the public. With what's on the cards right now, and be clear, if you don't believe me, I will play a clip from one of the other. It's not Chris Mannix. It's what is his name? It's not Chris. No, it is Chris Mannix. Excuse me. Well, no, dang it. Oh, no, that clip's for Keyshawn. Okay, excuse me. There's going to be a clip I play when we talk about Keyshawn Davis that Chris Mannix talks about when it comes to Keyshawn. But the same thing, sentiment-wise, is in the realm for Shakur. I'll give you a preview. He said about Keyshawn, we may not know what opportunities are next, but they're kind of far and few between because he's on thin ice. Paraphrasing, he's on thin ice, and if he's not taking Devin Haney fights, we don't know what other fights he can really get that would fit that stardom role. And there's some that are there, but it ain't many. And when it comes to Shakur, we're dealing with the same boat, all because he signed with Zuffa. Zuffa versus everybody else is kind of the MO of the public. Whether it's top-ranked PBC or otherwise, everybody on that side of the street is staying over there. Big fights that we would want to have that would fit what Shakur wants are all over there. What is available right now, because of him not going and signing with the zone or anybody under the zone, is now very sparse. And most of them are either still, in protocol because they just had a fight, have a fight like with Conor Benn and Ryan Garcia, or they're El Rayo, which, if you fight El Rayo, cool. But is that necessarily what the people want? Is that going to push the needle? But that's all you got. Murataya, with a couple months, once he gets cleared to fight again, perfect situation. And you may be, if Dana White's really willing to work with other people, this will be the fight that might bridge that gap between you and a fight with Conor Benn and or Ryan Garcia, if the big names is what you're looking for. So he might not have a choice to say that Murataya at 140 may be the best thing to happen. This is why I didn't want Shakur signing with Zuffa, because this very sentiment of, well, I'm doing this so I can get the stuff I want. You are in a position like with Jai Patai, you might have to just take what you can get. Not because you don't deserve more, but because you literally cannot get anything else. Actively, you can't. And Murataya now, you may not want to associate with him, but buddy, that's going to be the best thing you can probably get from this point on, at least for the foreseeable future, if you want to fight again this year or early next year. Anything can happen, but right now it's a little bit sketchy. And so you may want to get yourself back in line with the reality. Maybe I do need to fight Murataya. Because I want to see it. A lot of people want to see it. But that may be the best you can get for the time being at this point in this situation. Let me see. Shakur might as well retire and become a full-time boxing promoter. Matchmaker. No, he don't need to do that. No. He got plenty of time. We don't want this decision to backfire. We're just saying it may. That's all we're saying. We're saying it may. But we don't want it to without reality. But yeah, that Zuffa Island, it's why it's an island. It's a population of very few. And if they still want to do a bunch of stuff in-house, it's going to be really hard to be able to just say, hey, if I need to go out there to other places, I can't be picky. And right now with Shakur, just to stay active and to keep stuff going with how everybody else is moving, you don't want to lose your spot at the top of the hill when you got people vying for position to up their game in their legacy. You don't want to lose that spot where everybody still got you on their mind. You got to get something going. And because you're a star, you got to get something going that people will say that's valid, that's fair, that's real, that's what we want, or we can respect that. You're not going to please everybody. But if you want to keep that spot, you got to please at least some people. And right now, to please a lot of people, it would have to be Murataya if you can't get nobody else. When the Buck Crawford never did what the people wanted, look at how his career aged. Shakur, Shakira, he has that as an example. Shakur is following in the footsteps of Bud. Yeah. But also, Bud took a chance and Bob Arum failed. He still was thankfully able to get that legacy that he was looking for, but Bob Arum failed at what he said he was going to do with getting him the fight that he wanted. Yeah, he fought Kell Brook. Yes, he fought Sean Porter. Yes, he was able to get good fights. No denying that, because Top Rank still had a very good stable. But the ultimate thing, he wasn't able to get with Spence and Crawford. And if Shakur really does want big fights, Zuffa may not be the plan. Now, the only thing I can think of, let's also pump the brakes here. The only thing I can think of that we could see this work out is if we get a fight with Shakur and Tank. Because Tank will be willing to sign with Zuffa or work with Zuffa. And him and the PBC for a fat paycheck may put aside whatever differences and go and come over and they make a joint big time event where Shakur and Tank fight against each other. Most likely at 140. I could see and entertain that because we've already seen Tank entertain fighting Suarez. I believe it was Suarez at 140. And he fought Mario Barrios at 140. And Shakur is still unified champion at 140. That's the only means of success I could see this going down where he gets that type of fight that fits the bill of a big-time name. But again, that is all hearsay. That's rumor because we don't even know what the World Tank's going to be doing. But it could up and just retire between now and next year. Outright, no matter what his coaches may be saying. Doesn't matter. This buddy is a volatile fixture in every regard. So we can't bank on that. And if that doesn't hit, and they ain't getting the fight with Devin Haney, because Shakur's still talking too much and ain't actually making moves to make the fight, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem on our hands. We are going to have a real problem on our hands with Shakur because he is going to shoot himself in the foot potentially with letting stuff potentially pass him by or not willing to take stuff that he should. At least in my opinion, that's what we're going to see take place. Mark my words, if Shakur loses his next fight, he's going to retire. He doesn't like to lose anyway. He might just hang it up. I would hope not. I would hope not, because he's too good of a talent to have a loss completely reject any notion of wanting to fight again. That would be terrible. That would just be a waste of talent and a waste of ability. And again, even the idols that he says he looks up to, even more so than just the likes of Floyd, they've lost. And yet still, they went on to be one of the greatest ever. I don't know why. No, the only person I would definitively say that about would be Tank. Tank's been really eking at, but I can't handle a loss at all. And if I lose, I don't know how I'll take it. I understand that, because he's essentially just about alluded to, but I won't be able to take the ridicule of what I've given to other people on me. If I lose a fight, my pride can't handle that. So I can see that. But Shakur, I don't know if one loss is going to just straight up wipe him out of wanting to do anything. Because I think he's more headstrong. It's going to sound crazy. I'm not trying to be, go at a man's, no pride or mental stability. I'm not doing that. But from how I've heard them talk, though it's reckless, I do think he'll be more inclined to, at least after one defeat, I can still go and work. Tank, more I believe in him, that if he loses, he's outright done. Because he's already just about lost his love for the game. He's already 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Shakur, for all that we want to say, is at least still both feet in the game. At least I can say that about him. Tank, I can't. Let me see. The Keyshawn duck will live in infamy. It will. And we're about to get into Keyshawn right now. Absolutely. Devin's contract with the Zone isn't worth $100 million without Keyshawn, Tank, Shakur, or Ryan. Well, that's the thing. Those fights are still on the table. Tank, because he's with PBC and PBC is under the Zone, that's on the table. Ryan, Top Rank, that's on the table. Shakur, that might not be on the table right now, though it still could happen, because Shakur is just saying, let's fight at 144. Devin Haney agreed, but now he's just wasting time, essentially, from my perspective. But that fight could still happen if Dana is really about making compromises, especially since there's a spot open with Keyshawn pulling out. So the fights to make, and again, big clear, the deal has now been confirmed. It is not $100 million that Devin Haney was going to get. I think Bill Haney even admitted he was blowing that up, but that number wasn't real. But he did get a really pretty penny for the amount of money, or for the deal that he signed with Top Rank. But the fights to make whatever the amount is for the contract worth it, they're still there. Shakur is the only one that might be out the window. But everything else is still there to happen. And with Devin Haney, how he's been moving, most likely they will happen. Most likely it will be taking place. Let me tell you, I do wish Kerr would do more fighting and less talking. That's the era we live in. Yeah, it ain't everybody. And again, he wasn't moving like this before. It's just the fact that now we're in this situation. We don't want it to be, but we're here. He was not moving like this last year. He was not moving like this last year. It was Josh Padley, William Zepeda, Teofimo Lopez. That's not a bad resume. Josh Padley wasn't giving. People knew he was going to lose, understandable. But that was Josh Padley came in on short notice. No disrespect there. And now I think he's able to become a regional champion, I think, or moving his way up as an actual boxer. Great. Love it. Good story. Zepeda, you beat Zepeda at his own game, and then you went through and you go and beat Teo definitively. Everything was there. He wasn't moving like this before. He just all of a sudden, he's changing his mind. Doesn't make sense. People just want to see Shakur. I think in destructive fights where he takes chances. Name a fight that's worth paying Devin Haney $12 million that's not Tank Shakur, Keyshawn, or Ryan. Oh, no, not many. Not many. Not many. I'm not denying that. There's not many. The big fights are the reason why the payoff is worth the payoff. He's got 3, or at least Ryan Garcia is still there as what that could be a big time fight. That's the one that everybody's banking on really more than anything. The Keyshawn fight would have been how people were hyping it up. It would have been that, but didn't work out because Keyshawn pulled out, but we almost crossed that line. Tank will never happen, almost assuredly, no matter what he says, until he shows otherwise. And then Shakur, if he wants to go and jump that gun, he can right now. The only fights that could make it worth it after this, if we don't get none of those, would be moving up to 154, which most people have agreed Devin Haney could do that. How successful would he be? We would find out. But many people said he should be 154 right now because of how big he naturally can be. You got just walking around weight is 158 per what he showed on the scale. So, like, he could make 154. And if that's the case, well, now it turns into Fundora, Ortiz, Boots. The same 3 players, just with a 4th big name in there. And most likely the big fight for that would be Devin Haney versus Boots Ennis. If you want to say what can happen for fights that would be a big time worth this level of major contract, it would be that. But if he doesn't get any of these 3, I'd be upset. But for the most part, it hasn't been his fault that these fights haven't came through, as we've seen. Because Keyshawn walked from a deal that was done. And Shakur, we don't know what the word he's doing. We don't know what the word he's doing. And why he just want to take the fight. Let me see. Are you saying Keyshawn's supposed to duck? Or are you saying Keyshawn's supposed to duck is worse than Mayweather retiring so he doesn't have to fight Oscar's mandatory? So, I don't know whether it's worse or not. What I will say is that, again, and now we can switch gears now into the other elements of the show, which is Keyshawn. Now we can switch into Keyshawn now because it's kind of blended over. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Keyshawn Davis pulled out of the fight with Devin Haney when they had an agreement of the purse bid was $8 million something, 75-25 split, $2 million plus for Keyshawn, $6 million plus for Devin Haney. Keyshawn wanted it to go to purse bid, and it did. Top Rank won it. All he had to do was just say, yes, we agree, and we got ourselves a fight. Numbers and everything lined up. 3 venues and dates established. But Keyshawn Davis walked out for no reason. Of no other external situations that we've seen that would validate this move. We call this a duck. I've said, and many other people have said this also, it's one of the worst ducks I've seen in terms of a fighter calling for smoke and then not going about it. It's frustrating. At least De La Hoya versus Floyd. At least Floyd fought him at 154. When Floyd fought him, he fought him where De La Hoya was. Now, he didn't fight at 154 again. I think up until like Conor McGregor, if I got my stuff correct. But he at least he fought him. Should De La Hoya have gotten a rematch? Yes. Was it a situation where, he avoided getting that rematch? Yes. We've talked about that, I think, over a year ago on this very channel. But does that mean that that's worse than you and Keyshawn Davis calling for the fight for over 6 months and then you don't fight him at all? After you got the purse bid that you asked for, you got made the mandatory over your blood brother, and you were all gung-ho on all social media platforms, on all these interviews, saying that you going to take out Devin Haney, and then you get the chance with everything that you wanted there for you, and you go and you walk away. That's worse to me, because at least I saw Floyd fight Oscar. Well, it's a duck move that he didn't rematch him, but at least, even if you want to say it might have been a controversial decision, depending on how you saw the fight, at least he got in the ring with him on the night. And when he followed through the first time. We at least got to see you do your thing in there when you crossed the line of, okay, the fight's about done. You called for it, get it going, and you got it going at least. Keyshawn Davis literally pump faked the world and fought himself for 2 fights saying, I want Devin Haney. That's like me saying, that's like me saying, I'm going through and hey, I want to eat some food. And boom, I get the food. I'm going to get it again. And then I just never show up to the store again. But I at least ate when I was there. That's not worse than me saying, I want food. Give me this food. I'm going to get somebody to call to put me ahead of somebody else to get me said food. And then I get the food exactly like I asked for. And not only do I not eat it, I throw it in the trash. Why? I don't know. I just don't want it anymore. At least at the other restaurant, I ate the food. Even if I said it was good enough to eat it again and I didn't eat it again, at least I ate it the first time. I didn't go back on what was supposed to happen when I crossed the line of I got the food in front of me that I asked for. That's all I'm saying. That's my problem. That's why Keyshawn, this duck, is so abysmal. That you call for everything and now you just walking away. For what reason? No good reason except for you wanted more money? Well, if you wanted more money, you should have taken the $3 million deal that was going to be under Devin Haney Promotions. Yes, it would have been Devin Haney promoting the fight under his own banner and name. Yes, but you would have gotten more money. And you wouldn't have felt you were lowballed. And you would not have been in a situation where we're calling you a duck right now because you at least would have stepped in the ring when you said for almost half a year you wanted to step in the ring. It doesn't make, that's why I'm saying this is a problem. I can't deny that's worse than Floyd. For me, it might not be for you, understandable. Like I said, everybody's criteria of what's worse than others is different. But for me, that's worse. That is absolutely worse. It's a great point. It's a great question to ask. Absolutely. I just think this is worse. Devin Haney versus Keyshawn would have made 100 times what they're trying to pay Keyshawn. What they're trying to pay Keyshawn. This fight would have easily made $100 million. It was after sanction fees, taxes, manager, trainer expenses. He probably making less than $1 million. And like I understand, and in fact, I even saw something about Jay. Well, I think his manager was taking, was it 50% or like 30% of whatever the purse was going to be? He would have taken like $600,000 or something like that. I don't know if that's true or not. That is way too much. That's egregious if that's the case. And this is not me trying to say somebody shouldn't be getting paid. I'm saying even by the standards of everybody should get some money. That is egregious. I understand that completely. But you also got to take into account what Devin Haney did to get to this point. And that's why we say take the fight. If Keyshawn had taken this fight, even with the sanctioning fees and everything that you see on the bottom of the screen, that would have, yes, it would have eaten away at the money. The back end of what this fight would have done is exactly why you take the fight in the first place. Because Keyshawn Davis would have been set for whatever other fight he wants as the biggest name, one of the biggest names, with being in the ring with one of the other biggest names in the sport, and having his position to leverage negotiations for nearly every other opponent he would ever want to fight, it would be there. Win or lose, outside of a select few names, like Ryan Garcia, like Tank Davis, like Shakur Stevenson if they ever fought. That's just if he lost. He would still only not have leverage against those names. And even with that, he will be getting paid a lot closer to what he's worth because you shared the ring with one of the biggest names in the sport. Look at Tank, or look at Tank and Lamont. Lamont Roach, after getting in the ring with Tank, even in a draw, even if he had lost that fight, it would have been what we see now. He got a main event with Tank, he got a main event with William Zepeda, and he got a main event with Isaac Cruz. Or co-main event, with Isaac Cruz. Back to back to back. Actually, no. Was it a main event? No, it was a main event. I think it was a main event. You had what he got off the backs of that performance set him up to be able to get all the money that he wanted down the line with consistency of bigger names. Devin Haney went and kept on fighting everybody. And he would take the back end of other stuff. He wasn't getting that much money. But because he kept on fighting and getting those in the ring with Lomachenko, again, Kambosos is not a great fighter, but at that point in time, undisputed champion. Fighting twice over in Australia and doing all this other stuff and just taking fights. Even if it wasn't the biggest of bag, now he's able to command all this copious amounts of money. Because the legacy, like we said before, when you take the legacy, the money comes. It never fails. Or almost it never fails. Keyshawn Davis would have been in a position to get all the money he deserved. And more. After this fight, even if you felt he got lowballed for this fight. Because you would have gotten in the ring with one of the 10 biggest names in the sport. And that's just if you lose. If you won, my gosh, the world is literally your oyster for whatever amount of money you want. It's literally your oyster to have wherever you want to go against whoever. And now your name gets narrowed down to only 3 names get more money than you that can leverage more than you around your weight class. That's it. And if you draw, you still get the same position that we saw with Lamont Roach. Big time fight at the big time fight at the big time fight. Most likely because, hey, you evened out with one of the best names up here. And now you're in everybody's mind and hearts. What happened? You should have won. You should have had this go your way. How in the world did you lose this fight? This should have been in the bag for you. You got robbed. If we get those conversations going, we saw what that did for Lamont Roach. Life-changing money. The opportunity itself was worth getting lowballed because you would have gotten the back end all in your favor. Again, looking at it from an outside perspective. From what we've seen in the past with other people that took this route of, I may not be getting the most money, but I know this is a chance I can't afford to not take. Because if I did win, everything's coming to roses for me. Everything afterwards. Literally win, lose, or draw. So I would not take that chance. That's what I'm saying is a problem. That's why I hate this. It's so frustrating. 75-25, I see why he didn't take that fight. It should have been 60-40. And if you want to say that, that's fair to say. That's fair to say. No problem there. But again, even with that being the case, on Devin Haney Promotions, let me put this up. T.O. versus Shakur. What was the purse? How much did T.O. make for that fight with Shakur? Okay, they both earned a guaranteed $10 million each. Shakur earned $10 million. I think, and then on top of the pay-per-view buys and sales and all that stuff, is scaled up even more. Teofimo, I think he got a little bit less. And then with pay-per-view buys and commercial stuff, it evened up even more. Even if he only got the 2 million with the purse bid, I think with all the other stuff that would have been added on because of who bought the fight, how many people saw the fight, the buy rates and whatnot, merchandise sales, with how much we were hyping up what this fight could be, he would have still made an incredible pretty penny. Even after all the taxes and stuff, because the back end, again, of the fight would have been incredibly copious. Because the entire world was saying, hey, we want to see that. That fight got more hype than Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. That fight's more anticipated than AJ versus Fury. That fight, outside of Bam and Inoue and Shakur and Haney, when that fight got announced as, oh, it can actually happen, that was one of the biggest fights in the globe. In the globe. That's not me. That's not hyperbole. That's actual. And if that had translated to in the ring, he would have still, the 2 million was just guaranteed money. That's not everything else taken into account. Yeah, I think he would have made more. I think he would have made even more. It's just the fact, this is just an opportunity that I just don't see. You should have let go. I really don't. Because Keyshawn Davis is a huge star. We don't deny that. And we want to see this fight absolutely. But we also got to be serious about this. Keyshawn Davis was not on the same level of star power as Devin Haney or Shakur. Or Ryan Garcia. This was not me saying I want him to get lowballed. But at the same breath, anybody else would kill to have this same position of I can fight and potentially usurp one of the 10 best in the world, knowing this is also going to be one of the most anticipated fights of the year. If I don't take this now, what else will I be able to do? And if we want to be perfectly honest, let me show you now. Now I can play the clip of what Chris Mannix had said about this fight and this whole situation in regards to what Keyshawn Davis will be able to do going forward. Because of the fact he didn't take this fight, there's a lot of speculation that his next steps and what he can do is going to be a whole lot more stringent. Not just for himself, but for the people that are the promoters that want to take a chance with him. And I'll let him tell you himself in this interview that he had earlier this week, I think over the weekend, yesterday, in regards to this whole situation on Keyshawn. Let me make sure you all can see it before I play it. I just want to make sure. Okay, yep, and we are. Yep, you all can see it. Here we go.
I don't know what his next opportunity is. From what I'm told, Top Rank doesn't owe him a fight again until May of 2027. Like there's they don't have, what they can do now is, follow the letter of the law in the contract, offer him his minimums, have him, offer him fights with like Brian Norman Jr. or Tiger Johnson or some of these guys that they've got on their stable. The kind of fights that don't represent big paydays, that don't represent the kind of big opportunities that Keyshawn is looking for. He is taking a tremendous risk here. And look, maybe it'll pay off.
And again, he's right. But he's also could be wrong. And by that, I mean, Chris Mannix saying it may pay off. It may. But at the same breath, those fights might not even bring him $1 million. Brian Norman Jr. versus Keyshawn Davis, with all due respect to Brian Norman, it might not bring him even that much. If you thought $2 million for Devin Haney was a lowball offer, you're going to hate to see what the number's going to be for the likes of for Keyshawn versus Brian Norman. With Keyshawn being the bigger name, you're going to hate what those numbers are. This is with Keyshawn being favored. Him getting $1 million might be the best bet. Abdullah Mason let me see. If I even got my numbers correct, and again, we normally deal with the fights. We normally deal with the X's and O's, quote unquote, of the boxing world. We care about the actual action more than anything. We got other people that do better with financial information and all that stuff. We leave it to them. As we're learning, we can give you more. But right now, I'm telling you what this channel's bread and butter is. But with what we do know, Abdullah Mason, this last fight, let me pull up what he made. Now, it wasn't disclosed. But if he previously made upwards of potentially $75,000 in lieu of getting to this fight with Albert Bell or Sam Noakes winning the title, he might be pushing right now. He can demand potentially $1 million or get up to potentially $1 million as the reigning champion, maybe a little bit more, depending on whose numbers you may be asking. For these next future fights. That's his position. One of the biggest names in the sport. Keyshawn Davis. With him getting stripped of an opportunity against De Los Santos, fighting against the likes of Albright, and yes, having a great win against Ortiz, but then having a very, somewhat tready win, a somewhat concerning win, going up against Albright in the second fight where he won. Yes, but some people may look at it as, ooh, it wasn't as dominant as we expected. He was still getting his reputation lined up. The $3 million to $2 million that he was going to get from Devin Haney would have been so much better than what he may potentially be getting now for what's left on him. And why in the world would Top Rank want to risk him against another big-time name if we don't know if he can even get there? Let's say Ryan Garcia beats Conor Benn. Let's go down the road. Hey, come on, let's talk. And before I continue, I'm going to read your chat still, but remember this conversation I'm about to have, or get ready for this conversation I'm about to have with what fights we could actually see Keyshawn get now that Top Rank doesn't have a whole lot of trust in him as a fighter. Let me see, somebody like Tank, you're going to get a huge back end. Devin doesn't do Tank numbers. I bet to bet on the back end, that would be fair if Keyshawn had not already done the work with marketing. Debo Dev, doing scenes from Friday, getting everybody talking about the fight, getting everybody actually excited for, hey man, Keyshawn Davis might be able to knock you out. And we could see, even with just the notion that maybe Devin Haney will actually fight differently with the training with James Toney. All of that was feeding into, hey man, we may not get Shakur, but we're getting Keyshawn, one of the two. And if he beats him, we might finally get the fight with Shakur Stevenson. And we could see Devin Haney potentially get upset by a fighter who we've said has the tools to potentially do some work against the world of Devin Haney and his game. This could actually get pretty interesting. And they already don't like each other. And they've been talking reckless, specifically Keyshawn to Devin Haney and his dad. It was building up a marketing identity that people, even if we didn't like Devin Haney, what do we always say? People want to pay to see Devin Haney lose. That type of notion or market was building up when this fight was getting announced. Because notice, when the fight got canceled, it was one of the biggest news in all of social media. It was trending #1 on social media. Every single person, every big-time boxing podcaster, shoot, every small-time boxing podcaster, and people that weren't even into boxing like that, streamers were talking about, this is a duck. What the world? It's a problem. So that's why I say I think the back end would have been worth it. Let me see. Also, Ryan Grace, what's up with you? How you doing? Good to see you. We thank you so much for tuning in on the show. Definitely call Zepeda'S to be in Roach. Yes, you did. And call the Murray win. Yes, yeah, you went 2 for 2 on those. Credit to you. And also Just Truth, how you doing? Good to see you. Like I said, I'm just trying to greet everybody that's coming in so we don't miss nobody in the chat. Let me see. It's crazy how Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua fight made way more money than Keyshawn Davis. Devin Haney fight. And it is crazy. Now Jake Paul is an anomaly. The paying to lose, that was scaled up to 100. And people, because he was fighting Anthony Joshua, everybody paid because, one, it's on Netflix, and two, we knew Jake Paul was going to get knocked out. It was just about to be how bad. And everybody knew Jake Paul had no chance of winning. So it was like, we can finally see the end of this. And they wanted to see this destruction. That's why that got so much money. Understandable. But let me see, do you think Keyshawn's stock decreased by turning down the fight? Absolutely, Vaughn. Vaughn, you hit the nail on the head. It did. It did. It absolutely did. And before I forget the point, let me make sure I say the thing about Ryan Garcia. Do you think Keyshawn Davis will be trusted to get in the ring with a Ryan Garcia by Top Rank because he avoided this fight with Devin Haney when it was at the finish line? This wasn't a situation where we're not talking about you just talk, and you just never came to the negotiation table. You got to the negotiation table. Top Rank won the bid. You're a Top Rank fighter. We got you in a big fight in-house that could potentially skyrocket you into one of the biggest stars that we have on our roster. And you then go and turn it down when everything that you wanted coming in, you got. Do you think we're going to trust you to get a fight with Ryan Garcia across the board? When Ryan Garcia could potentially be even more destructive? And he's with the opposition? Are we going to believe in you to make that type of fight? Shoot. We had to ask that now, because that's how the upper echelon of the promotional ladder is thinking. This brother could get shelved all because if you think that this wasn't worth the time, what is? Let's ask that, what is? Because don't forget, we can say Devin Haney may not be a big name, but the evidence is showing this brother is one of the biggest names out here, even if you don't like him. Because this cat's getting in positions to fight. Attached to the hip, Shakur, Ryan, and upwards of Boots Ennis. If people want to see him fight at 154. And Tank, he is in the middle of 4 of some of the biggest names in the world in boxing, all surrounding him. And yet, we're looking at a cat who doesn't take this opportunity to crescendo and replace Devin Haney to be in those same conversations. Why would you not have that? And be clear, Keyshawn Davis wasn't even the most accomplished brother in this conversation. It was initially just Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson and Ryan Garcia. We were thinking Keyshawn Davis was going to fight at 140. Gary Antoine Russell, Sam Noakes. Hey, you beat Jermaine Ortiz. Let's say you run through the ladder. Maybe you'll get a fight with Shakur. But now, again, thinking business, we're at a whole new animal. You got in this position. And then when you got there, everybody was like, oh, shoot. We knew you could get to this moment, and now you're here. The world. And you just let it walk away? You got here. You quicker than expected. You got to this threshold of you can potentially beat one of the biggest names in the globe. When we were saying you could be one of the future faces of this sport, and now that you're here, you don't take that opportunity, there's going to be a whole lot of pushback to say, brother, we don't trust you. We don't. And other fighters may say, well, you're not worth my time because we don't think you'll take a fight with me in the first place. Because of his own decision, he could literally be blacklisted by other fighters, let alone managers and promoters, because you're a risk that, forget just a fight risk, you might be a waste of time. Because if you don't want to fight Devin Haney, who else is fitting the bill of being the name that you deem worthy? Who else is fitting the bill of that? It ain't many people that are fitting the bill that you can fight, that are in the position to say, I'm big enough, that I'm on the caliber of a Devin Haney level name. There ain't many. So I think it's gonna bite him. I think it's gonna bite him really bad. Really, really bad. But let me see what you all got to say. Top Rank is shoving that kid, and it is truly sad because, yes, he has talent. I hope they don't, but don't deny They're going to look at that. They're really going to look at that. Let me see. Truth, how you doing? You say Zepeda never faced a puncher before. Tevin was able to hurt him. Yes, he was. Roach can't punch and only throw one punch at a time. And that's why we talked about the volume was the thing that got to Lamont. He was too inactive. And Zepeda boxed better than Lamont thought. He really did. He really did. And so, credit to him. Zepeda would definitely cook Abdullah. I think it's going to be a dominant win like he did against Roach. And at this point in time, that's not unfair to say. And right now, that's not unfair to say. That's not unfair to say. Because of who we've seen Zepeda turn into, like I said earlier. And Abdullah, again, you can go back and listen to it. Earlier in the show, we talked about this. But just quick summary. Abdullah Mason either needs to be able to become a better technical boxer with a better jab and better footwork to not get into a position that he had with Albert Bell, or become a more demonstrative, even better outright fighter to win in the wheelhouse that is also William Zepeda's game of going into the trenches. Because one half of the equation might not be enough to save the likes of Abdullah, like it was against Albert Bell. Because we now know Zepeda is legitimately a well-rounded fighter that can be a better, he's not a stronger puncher, but he's a better puncher from the perspective of punch placement and working and tricks of the trade when he does get to that inside game that Abdullah may have some trouble with, at least in my opinion. Let me see. Haney dog walk Shakur, exposing him for the duck that he is. Look, and at this point, if we want to talk about Shakur, we got to be completely honest now. For what good reason is Shakur not taking a fight with Devin Haney when Devin Haney had already agreed to fight at 144? The backlash can come to Keyshawn, absolutely. But since we are where we are with Keyshawn Davis, let's go and really cut the mustard. If Shakur is available to fight and Devin Haney is available to fight and Keyshawn Davis pulled out, there's still a spot open. Shakur can jump in and take that fight. You do new negotiations. You still got the dates in place. Y'all just actually come to an agreement. But it don't make sense why it's so difficult to me to make stuff happen. But it seems like right now, Shakur, when a fight that would seem like a no-brainer for a real big-time event, ain't no back-end conversation there, ain't no debate about what would come in that regard. We're going to get what we're going to get, which is a major event, bigger than Keyshawn Davis. You're going to make the money that would fit your deal with Zuffa. And you ain't got no fight with nobody under Zuffa right now, LYO or otherwise. Why not take this opportunity and jump into the fray? Hey, Keyshawn pulled out. There's no need to ask for permission. I don't got to let my brother get the food before me because he let it go. So now it's just me. Let me go and work. And let me go and take this brother out at 144 that I asked for and he accepted. What's the holdup on Shakur's end in that regard? That's what I don't understand. And we really want to go and talk about the bigger aspects of this conversation. Where is Shakur in taking this fight? And why, if it's available, he's not jumping at the bit to go and take it if you're talking all this much on social media? There doesn't seem to be a point in wasting time. But it seems like he's wasting time. And there's no better opportunity than what he has with Devin Haney if he chooses to take it. Where is Shakur in all of this? And it seems like, to some degree, he's moving in the same way as Keyshawn from an outside perspective. That I don't like. For me, I don't like that. Let me see, our title should be Keyshawn, good business move, or hold on. Wait, I feel like I missed something. Let's see, title should be Keyshawn Davis, good business move, or duck. I mean, at this point, yeah, Keyshawn got to go for a title. At this point, Keyshawn, he's got to go. He's got to go for a title. To me, he's got to go for a title, in my opinion. because it's a bad identity around Keyshawn right now. You got to make something shake. You got to make something shake. Let me see. Man, you tripping? Abdullah gonna smoke him with that left uppercut. I'm not denying that. I know Abdullah Mason has the power to knock out or hurt William Zepeda. I'm not denying that his power won't be substantial in this fight. Be clear. That is not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying if his power does not work like he needs it to work, and it gets to a point where potentially somebody else that loves to go to a dogfight is able to hold their own, like we saw when Zepeda was able to beat Lamont Roach in the mid-range, where Lamont Roach wants to be, it could spell some danger if we've seen Abdullah Mason not have a secondary game plan. And on top of that, because now we know that Zepeda can box better than anybody expected against a fighter who was able to outbox one of the best talents in the world in Tank, that gives us a sentiment to say, okay, Zepeda not only is a real dog, but Zepeda is a better well-rounded fighter than Abdullah Mason is. And he can fight and box in combination at a level that we have not seen Abdullah Mason be able to do. We've seen him be able to fight phenomenally. But technically, as a boxer, we've seen him exposed. That's not bad, but that is a flaw that if he doesn't fix that, we could be looking at some dangerous territory if he's working against the likes of William Zepeda. That's not me saying Zepeda can't fight. That's not me saying Abdullah can't fight. That's me saying Abdullah has a hole that if it gets to, he's got to do another Albert Bell situation and pull it out the fire late. Zepeda is a whole lot better at managing that type of flame that Abdullah Mason would bring when it's time to go and just dog it out. That's what I'm saying. He's a lot more elite in that regard. And so it could be some trouble. It could be some trouble. Let me see. Key can fight Tiger, but I think he whoops Tiger. Only comp is Sugar John and Brian Norman. Yeah. I think he beats Tiger Johnson. Sugar John, if he beat Jermaine Ortiz, I think he could beat Sugar John. Though Sugar John's always going to be a tough fight, even though, yes, he got beat and I think knocked out in his last fight, but Sugar John still is a tough fighter to have. But I think Keyshawn Davis can beat him. And Brian Norman, a little bit more 50-50. Honestly, for where we were seeing Keyshawn Davis head up to, Brian Norman as a fighter and skill set was roughly where I was thinking would be the next logical step for Keyshawn Davis to go up to, not Devin Haney. Devin Haney was a big jump from what I was seeing the normal track of Keyshawn's career after beating Jermaine Ortiz go. That's a major jump. I don't think people understand just how different in not just accolades, but perceived skill we've seen from Devin Haney as just a straight up boxer than Keyshawn Davis. It's a big jump to say you can go and beat him. If you do it, great. It's just that's a leap. That's a leap and a half. But these fights just aren't as big. The fanfare's not nearly going to be as excited if we're going to talk money. If we're just talking money. The fights will be good. I'm not denying that. I think Sugar John and Norman would be good fights to see. But it's going to be a paling in comparison to the grandeur that we would have saw and money that we would have saw Keyshawn have. And the moving of the needle for Keyshawn to elevate and push up. Excuse me. The moving up of the needle for Keyshawn Davis to elevate and push up and push out into the further elite conversations of the boxing world. These fights aren't going to necessarily change those conversations immensely. Unless he does them by dominant performances. Because most people feel like he should beat the likes of Brian Norman or Sugar John, depending on how high you are on Keyshawn Davis right now. To hear you say you're going to get Devin Haney and then now this is the alternatives, these aren't bad fights. It's just, there's a stark difference. There is a stark difference. How many title fights, how many fighters go for titles with just 15 fights? Like Keyshawn? Not many. Well, no, in the past it used to be, with Roy Jones and others, by your 14th, 15th fight, you were working your way up to get to title opportunities, or straight up, if you were good enough, you got one outright. Or by that same age, you had a lot of fights. Keyshawn Davis becoming or getting a championship opportunity early on. That's great. I'm not. Don't act like I am disrespecting Keyshawn Davis's ability or what he is capable of doing, because he deserves to be in the elite conversations of the world of boxing. That's not a question. The question is simply, because of what he had in front of him as an elite fighter, how does this affect him going forward when he's trying to make other fights with other elite fighters? And I think it can be bad. Regardless of whether you think he can win or not, he was there in a position to get those fights. And now that he's not, didn't take it, what does that do for him going forward? And it could be a very bad moving for his capacity to land in the way that he wants to, with big fights, big names, and big opportunities. That's just me. I think Keyshawn Davis subconsciously knows he can't beat Debo at 147. So he tells himself, I'm going to get my butt whooped. I might as well get the biggest payday I can get. Yeah, maybe. I'm not saying that was mine, but if that is the way that he's thinking, he might need like 3 fights before he gets the amount of money that he could have gotten with Devin Haney. Because those other fights might not be over $1 million. With all due respect, might not be over $1 million. Maybe Brian Norman could be over $1 million. I don't think Keyshawn would be over $1 million if we're going to talk monetarily. Brian Norman, maybe, because people are still, he's a knockout artist and somebody who can still, puncher against puncher, that always can draw. Sure. But might be only $1 million in select certain areas, not just across the globe. I don't think he's going to have to do more work to make the same amount of money that he could have made with Devin Haney just taking the fight this early. I'm not mad at the fights happening. It's just, good gosh. My goodness. What you have versus what we had to settle with is kind of, oh my. Let me see. Devin had 22 fights before his first title shot as a pro. Let that sink in. No, it's incredible. It is incredible to be able to be up here this early. Both Devin Haney and Keyshawn Davis, no question. Both prodigies. I think both actually are similar in age. If I got my stuff correct, I think Devin Haney's 26 and Keyshawn is also 26 years old. Keyshawn's 27 and Devin Haney is, I think he just had a birthday as well. Devin Haney is also 20. Yeah, they're both the same age. They're both, now granted, at the same age of 27, Keyshawn may have gotten a fight at 15, but my gosh, Devin Haney moving through was just insane at that level of work rate and speed to go and keep on getting accomplishments, getting big names, and doing all this incredible accolade-driven stuff. It would have been a prodigy versus prodigy. 2 people with similar makeups of moving through and moving up in the ranks. I think both were former Olympians. And okay, who's gonna reach their crescendo first? Of 2 people, somewhat similar stories. What can shake up? It could have been the story writes itself, and it is there. I just hate we're not getting it. It's so frustrating. Let me see. What do you think is next for Murataya? Straight for titles that Shakur, Gary, Smith, Hitchens, or do you think he fights someone like Puello, Matias, Azim, or Pitbull? Okay. All right. And so actually this is a perfect segue because we're almost at the 2-hour mark. we can actually jump into the championship rounds now and talk about the rest of the landscape in the world of boxing and beyond. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to hear your voice and have your opinions, thoughts, and comments be heard for the masses to see all across the globe. It is the championship rounds, and what that means is that we discuss everything outside of our covered content, which means other boxing news, other debates and conversations, stuff we didn't delve into that you want to ask about, whether it's the NBA, NFL, or other things in the sports landscape. We want to hear from you in all regards of the conversation. You all control the flow of this show and have yourself an opportunity to be seen and heard for the masses to witness and enjoy all across the globe. We got roughly 30 minutes to an hour to have your voice be a part of the conversation. And please keep on liking the stream, keep on sharing the show, and keep on telling the masses all about what we got going on right here on the Welch Report. And shameless plug as we're transitioning, if you can't support the channel, we do have Cash App and PayPal. Links down below in the description. Super chats and super gifts, stickers, and the like, all for your viewing and listening pleasure. If you can help support us, we're like PBS. We're funded by viewers like you. Helps me to pay the bills, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and to go and edify the show to make it better for you to witness and enjoy without question. But let me hear your chats and comments, and let's get into the championship round, shall we? Let's see what you all got to say. And let's hear your conversations on the show, starting with, what's your Murataya do next? If he's moving up to 140, he's gonna probably gun after Shakur Stevenson first. Most likely that's gonna be his biggest through lane, especially since Shakur is not fighting Devin Haney. Shakur probably is gonna be the first one. And then if not that, it'll be Smith or Gary Antoine Russell. Because they're in-house, it'll be easier just to make those fights outright. Hitchens could be an option, but Hitchens might be gunning for Shakur as well after his fight on Zuffa. So Shakur may still be tied up with trying to get a fight in-house with Hitchens. So I would assume Murataya's biggest focus is going to be Shakur, Gary, and then Smith. And, he could fight Puello. He could fight Matias and Azim. Or shoot, even Pitbull. He could fight them all. But would you want to risk potentially getting out of your championship opportunity with one of those other four names, with you already being a champion at a lower weight class, moving up? You could already say, hey, I was a champion down here. I can move up and get a fight with one of you all up here for the belt. Because I'm bringing in an already established, precedent, as we've seen other fighters do before. So, would you want to risk that to already get a title shot that you've been asking for another person, just with a different name? I don't think so. So I would think those top four would be the focus first. And then, if he doesn't get those, go Puello, Matias, and others. It's still risky down there at 140, even with names that aren't champions. I don't think he risks not getting a championship level fight under his belt first, and then moving on to those other names afterwards. At least to me. He can fight Jose Ramirez, stop Jose, whom Devin Haney ran from all night. He's right back in the mix. Again, he doesn't need to because he was already a champion at 135. Reigning. So he could potentially say, I got, I forget what it's called, but essentially force his way into a title shot. If he did it, it'd be great. It would add to his threat level. I stopped Jose Ramirez. Devin Haney just ran from him. I took him out, but also Jose Ramirez is old. He will still get respect, but some people may use that age with the skill set that he has right now as a detraction against him. Not all, but there'll be a big enough noise. Although for a fight just to get in the mix at 140, that just to get your feet wet, see what it's like, and fight a guy who you can beat, but would pose some resistance, and show you what it's like to be at 140 for your first time, I can understand it. It's not a bad move. But if Murataya wants to move for a title, it might be the move that he makes before anything. It could be. Let me see. I think it's Vyacheslav, but that dude, that's a big dude. He probably won't fight him strictly because, like I said, the risk-reward assessment, quote-unquote, of a name caliber fighter that would make some noise, that might be a little too big of a risk with not nearly the notoriety to go and say it's worth the time fighting. For Murataya, who's coming up saying, I want a title probably as soon as possible. Well, they might not fight him. I would think if any fight that does happen, it'd be Jose, but hey, it'd be, wait, hold on. Jose went, he moved up? He moved up? Wait a minute. I thought he was still at 140. When did this happen? Wait a second. Wait. Hold on. 147. T was at 147. T for Arnold Barboza. Did Arnold Barboza fight Jose Ramirez? Is that? I didn't put two and two together. Hold on a second. Is that what the fight? Was it Arnold Barboza? What was his last fight? Arnold Barboza. Dang it. Yep, it was. Yep, 2024. You're right. Yeah, 2024. Yep. I'm tripping so bad. Arnold Barboza fought Jose Ramirez. That's at 147. Devin Haney fought Jose Ramirez as well. 147. On the same card as Tio. When it was Tio's, I think, second defense at the title, or second or third defense before his belt, before losing to Shakur. And then it was Devin Haney's first fight at 147 that he fought Jose Ramirez. You're right. I'm tripping. That's a mulligan on my part. That's a mulligan. That's my fault. I don't know. I appreciate the help. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to confuse the weight class. Please, I'm not trying to. It just, I got caught slipping. That's my bad. But yes, Jose is at 147. Thank you for the clarification. Even still, at 140, there are names that he can fight. I would stay away. Now that we got now that we understand fully, Ramirez is at 147, not at 140. Stay clear of Matias or Puello right now. Don't fight them. Not yet, anyway. Please, at least get some notoriety before you, in terms of some stability at this division. If you're gonna go big, go for the titles outright. But even fighting them, even with Matias getting knocked out and Puello being a little bit older, they can still bring dramatic problems against Murataya. If Murataya gets in the ring and all of a sudden, oh shoot, their skill level, that's a little bit dangerous. They can still cause some turmoil over there. All right, so you better be careful with that. I really want to just go for the title first. Shakur or otherwise. And then, after that result, okay, let the chips fall where they may and stay at 140 and fight the other people around there. That's what I would do. Let me see. Would not mind Shakur fight Murataya. Has the best chance of beating him outside of Haney. I mean, in that division, yeah. Gary Russell would still be a threat. But Shakur's beating Sam Noakes. Shakur's beating, most likely, yes, he's still beating Gary Russell. The way he beat Teofimo Lopez kind of singled out everybody else in this division. And Murataya brings the level of size and dealing with Andy Cruz in the way that he did. Boxing ability that would be able to give Shakur at least a substantial obstacle to overcome. I'm not saying Shakur ain't better than him. He is. But that's a fight that we're not just calling for that fight for no reason. It's because Murataya can legit box. He can actually box. He can actually go for it. And got some power to boot that can carry up, especially with them moving up to 140. It's not just about, he can just jab and cut off the ring with the best of them. He can actually, he's built legit. His punches garner some respect. I'm not saying he's a knockout artist, but that cat, he can go for it. So I want to see that fight, absolutely. If we can get that next, if possible. Shakur versus Pitbull in Vegas is bigger than Raymond versus Shakur in Vegas. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because Pitbull would be a more exciting fighter. That clash of styles would be like what we saw with Zepeda and Shakur. Murataya would be a better opponent because of what he brings to the table. But yeah, Pitbull's a bigger star. Pitbull's a bigger sell because he's Pitbull. No matter what, you can say he's good, you can say he's a bum. He ain't a bum. But everybody, you know what you get. He gonna fight. He gonna be exciting. He gonna put pedal to the metal. And no matter how good you can fight, you're gonna get clipped at one of these situations. Lamont got clipped. Tank got clipped. El Rayo got clipped, even in the victory. And for them first 6 rounds, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. There's been nobody that's been able to completely just nullify the ability of Isaac Cruz from the first 3 to 5 rounds. Nobody. No matter what we've seen done. Because he always finds a way at that point to at least get some success. Now, in the back end, yeah, you can beat him. Absolutely. And Shakur can beat him. But that type of, from round 1 on, he's even more in high gear than William Zepeda. But he loses that gear after round 7. But doggone it, that first high motor, it's gonna be insane. Shakur still beats him, but it would make for an exciting fight in spite of what Shakur may want to do, which is be in distance, keep the range, keep the jab, use his feet, jump back, and be able to keep the control. There's been nobody that's been able to keep Isak out of his range, at least for the first 6 rounds. That's what makes that fight exciting. And I'd want to see what that would turn into. Let me see. I was talking about Keyshawn fighting. Oh, okay, excuse me. You were talking about Keyshawn fighting Ramirez. My apologies. Shoot, Keyshawn fighting against. Well, okay. Keyshawn fighting Ramirez at 147, beating him and knocking him out off the backs of Devin Haney running would further build into the story. However, it would still fall flat on his face because even if you beat Jose Ramirez and knock him out in a way that Devin Haney was too scared to do, you could have just beaten Devin Haney. The issue with this whole situation with Keyshawn Davis and Devin Haney, there was no need to build up the fight anymore because the fight was almost happening. Any other storyline bits to add to the lineage of, oh man, what made this fight so big? I'm not saying they don't mean anything, but they're not going to hold the same level of value because we were just about to get the fight outright. There was no need to do anything else to say, I be the guy that you beat and that you were scared to go and hang with. I knocked him out. Now what you gonna do? Well, you could have shut him up by just fighting him. But you didn't. So yeah, you beat Jose Ramirez. You're still not gonna fight Devin Haney. At least in what we saw in track record wise. So if that's the angle you were going for, I see the vision. It just doesn't fall to me on its feet like it should. Because now we're dealing with the backlash is going to be you're fighting everybody but Devin when you could have just fought Devin straight up. Is that noise that he wants to hear? I don't think so. So it would kind of be like, I don't think we'll move the needle like that. Hey, Murataya. Oh, yeah, Murataya can pressure box or bang with you, initiate and react. Not much he can't do. Really, it's really not. There's really not much he can't do. Shakur would probably 12-0 Pitbull like Valdez. Yeah. Now, I will say Pitbull, because of his body punching ability, would be more successful in getting on the inside against Shakur than Valdez. I don't think he wins, though. Absolutely. Don't be surprised if he wins a round or two because of just his aggression. But most likely, getting 12-0'd wouldn't be out of the realm possibility. Because again, it's Shakur. And somebody who just wants to come forward like that, yeah, he can do work like he wants to. Let me see, Floyd Schofield versus Keyshawn, who win? I mean, shoot. At this point, that fight can't happen right now. At this point, that fight can't happen. That fight, that fight is way too extraneous or strenuous on the body for Schofield. Because that's at one. That would have to be at best at 140 simply for Schofield. Don't let it be that Keyshawn Davis is staying at 147. And he just is, because it sounds like it was, the whole point he moved up here is because even 140 was a little bit too small for his own body. Per his own words, I don't care about weight cut. So if he fights Schofield, it would be at minimum one division, or at worst, two divisions, way above what we've seen with Schofield ever before. 140 or 147. Super lightweight or welterweight outright. I don't think Schofield is good enough to win at that level. Because we're saying Schofield is good enough to compete with the top dogs at 135. We're not putting him up against anybody even at 140. We weren't even putting him at the Murataya level, let alone if he moves up the Gary Russell level. That's a whole different ballgame. I don't think we could get that fight. I would say Keyshawn beats Schofield right now if they fought, simply because that size difference with what would be impactful for Keyshawn would be incredibly dangerous for Schofield. And it would be Schofield making a leap to fight that type of elite talent. Again, he faced off against Tevin Farmer, absolutely. But Keyshawn Davis has a whole new conversation with the added sentiment of it's above your weight class that you have not grown out of yet. It might get dangerous for Schofield. I wouldn't want to see that right now. Until Schofield gets to 140. It'd be an exciting fight, but I pick Schofield to knock him out. Or I would pick Schofield to get knocked out by Keyshawn if they fought against each other. Or at least Keyshawn wins by decision. Handy decision to me. That's going to be close. Keyshawn's style is very similar to Tank's. Keyshawn's style is similar to Tank Davis. I don't know about that. I don't know. I thought it was more so he got a lot of. I thought we were having a conversation just a couple weeks ago. This buddy was showing shades of Crawford more than anything. Not fighting ability, but fighting style. He's a faster starter than Tank. He's a more voluminous puncher than Tank. He still is, he's a dedicated knockout. He wants to go and put pedal to the metal. And he's a more deliberate body puncher than Tank. I don't think he's like Tank. I don't see him fighting. I've never seen him fighting. He's like a Tank Davis. I've always seen it as he's more of a closer style to Terrence Crawford. More than anything. Again, I'm not comparing him as he fights as good. But the similarity, that's what I've seen. I don't think he fights like Tank. Again, if I'm wrong, please tell me why. I would love to hear your insights. I just don't see that. High pressure efficiency, counterpunching, almost just like Tank, but different sizes. Now, he's a lot more aggressive than Tank. A whole lot more aggressive than Tank. And he likes to counterpunch, but he's more deliberate at initiating his offense before looking to counter. He wants to get you first, not wait until you get him. He's not waiting on a mistake first and foremost and downloading information nearly as long. He's more prone to going and just taking it to you. Way more than what we've seen from Tank throughout his whole career. Not saying he can't be a great counterpuncher. He can be. I just think the styles are way too different. Keyshawn taking $1.8 million or $1.8 to $3 million for Ramirez is valid, Um, but not for Devin. The zone and Top Rank really lowballing that fight. Wait a second, hold on. Keyshawn taking 1.8 million to 3 million for Ramirez is valid, but not for Devin. The zone and Top Rank really lowballing him. I mean, but see, here's the thing. Well, hold on. Let me make sure I'm reading this right. Keyshawn taking 1.8 million to $3 million for Ramirez is valid, but not for Devin. The zone and Top Rank really lowballing that fight. If we're talking Jose Ramirez at 147, again, Jose Ramirez as a main event fight at 147. I don't think it would be for that fight. To me, that's an incredibly high number. Again, fair because he would be the bigger A side name, sure. But that for a fighter in the name of Jose Ramirez, with all due respect, that would be a high end, a good number to get. And if you want to say that 2 million or that same amount of money again for Devin Haney is drastically low, I'm not denying that isn't an argument to have, because Keyshawn Davis is a huge name, and this is a huge fight. And 75 to 35 is a big split. At the same breath, going into this, that was the number. And Keyshawn still wanted to go through. Going into this, the initial thing was reportedly whatever amount this is going to be 75-35. And still Keyshawn said, let's go through with the purse bid and make it happen. When making three, and so it's not about, I understand completely that this was you don't want to feel slighted or undone by getting less than what you're worth. I'm not denying that. Get your money. It's just the fact that it shouldn't have gone to a purse bid then. And you should have just said, hey, let's go back to the table. And we got to make something shake differently, because these numbers are way too far out of proportion. It's the biggest gripe with this whole situation. If you felt this was a lowball offer, why did you go to the ends of the earth to nearly get this fight done just about? With you, if you were just taking even just the straight up Devin Haney Promotions deal, it would have been $3 million. And you went to purse bid because you think you would get more, and now you got less. But again, you bet on yourself. You already felt that this was going to be a too lopsided thing for you to want to do. You should have said, hey, this number is way too lopsided, 75-25. We got to make some stuff different over here. 70-30, shoot, 65% for you and the rest for me. Might be a little bit fair if we can't get down to 60-40. I just don't think you should have went this far into, we got ourselves something going. If this was the initial concern that you had, I'm getting lowball. Why push it to this much of an extent? Because now it just seems like, okay, hey, you exhausted all realities. This is what you can get. But you're so gung-ho for the fight, you must think this is worth it for what's going to come down the line for you. It just, when you're pushing this far, now it's got everybody saying there was no point in you backing out if you went through this much work to try to see what you could get. And now you know what you got. You might as well take it for many people. Because this, again, the opportunity. This isn't like a situation where we're saying, okay, exposure is the best way to make money. We're saying this is more than just exposure, but this is your opportunity to get everything you want after this. This is it. If you really go this way. Because everything else, in my eyes, or in other people's eyes, would have been worth it. And that's where a lot of people have a lot of concern with this. Schofield versus Herrera is box office. That would be a good fight to have, especially with a championship opportunity in the works as well, or at least a belt on the line if we see Schofield again win the belt in his upcoming fight that he has this year. Crawford, to me, is more of a boxer than Tank and Key. Okay, more of a boxer puncher than what you see Tank and Shakur as. That's fair. That's fair. I'm not denying that. I just think that Key takes more inspiration in his style from Crawford than Tank. Again, in my opinion, when I watch him fight, but I'm not upset. I'm not upset. I just don't see as many comparisons to Tank for Keyshawn Davis as I do with Crawford when I watch them stylistically fight. But again, that's just how I see it. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. Let me see. Yeah, that's $2 million fight for Keyshawn. I mean, look, if y'all think so, perfectly fine. But my whole thing is, if he had fought Devin Haney, regardless of the result, that could have been a $4 million fight for the likes of Keyshawn Davis. If you're saying that just right now, Key versus Ramirez, that's a $2 million fight, worth it. If he had fought Devin Haney, that fight could have been, he gets $4 million, 4.5 potentially. Simply because now your name is elevated well above the majority of this division. So you can demand a whole lot bigger piece of the pie from everybody else after this fight. So yeah, you may only make 2.1 to 3 over here, potentially even 4 million plus because of, again, pay-per-views and all that stuff and all the other merchandise stuff that we talked about earlier. But after that, anybody else after this, for most, 2 to 3 million is going to be the baseline. Now upwards of 4 to 5. For some fights, 6 to 8. And for the mega fights, 10 to 12 plus. Because of what you already did with, I already have on my resume, Devin Haney. That's my guy. Or that's the dude I've been in the ring with. And because of that, simply by proxy, I deserve this amount outright. And everybody else that ain't at that same level of grandeur and name, they would have just had to accept it. Because they couldn't get a better fight and a bigger fight monetarily than you outside of Ryan Garcia or outside of Devin Haney in this division right now. That's my frame of thinking anyway when I'm talking about this. Would feel the same if Tank fight versus Devin was worth $100 million and Tank said, I'm getting $95 million or no fight. Would Tank be in the right knowing his worth? Hold on, wait, let me read. Hold on, I think I read this wrong. Would feel the same way if a fight between Tank and Devin was worth $100 million and Tank said, I'm getting $95 million or no fight. Would Tank be in the right knowing his worth? So, in that situation, Tank would be in the right to say, hey, I'm worth copious amounts of money and I should be getting the majority of this. Now, again, in that situation, that would be 95 to 5. That's egregious. That's egregious. 95% to 5% of the money. Yeah, that's a little out there. But to feel like he's worth that, I'm not going to detract from you. But we're also living in reality. Tank would not, even for that type of fight, Tank would not deserve for a fight that is two big names together, 95% of the pot. But if you wants to argue, yeah, I deserve more, there's no issue there. But it's also about playing the game when it comes to this business of making fights. But at that point, both of them will be getting, if you want to say 60-40 for a $100 million fight, that's $60 million. I don't think Tank would be walking away from $60 million. I don't think. Because at that point in time, you reached a zenith where now, yeah, even if I'm not getting 70% of whatever, I'm now at the position in my fighting career that these types of splits are equating to a whole different category of money and monetary value. Whole different stratosphere. That, yeah, it'd be worth it. Is Keyshawn there to be able to say, I'm worth that much? When again, I don't think he's a bigger star than the other people around him, Shakur, Ryan Garcia, and Devin Haney. And to put this into perspective, see, that's true. He got $200 million for fighting Ryan Garcia. He did, or the collective thing was $200 million. That is true. It was a boatload of money. It was a boatload of money. Like I said, I'm not. That's why I'm saying I'm not against, because of what the track record showed. I'm not against feeling, hey, I deserve the bigger piece of the pie. But look at what I've done. I get it. I'm not denying it. What I'm saying is, we're arguing if Keyshawn feels like he's slighted. My whole thing is, other people to get to be able to say, I want that much money, did work that you haven't done to position themselves to say, I deserve that type of money. Perfect example that we go even outside of this division, Usyk and Fury. When Usyk was going to fight Fury, Tyson Fury at one point in time was asking for 90% of the purse. And then when again, Usyk was the unified champ that had fought and beaten Anthony Joshua twice and had cleaned out the entire division except for Fury. Had done better work, more work in less time, in the same amount of time that the same amount of time that we saw Tyson Fury fighting. And that was the last crescendo, the last hurrah. This is Fury off the backs of his trilogy with Wilder and Usyk beating, I believe it was beating Dubois, Anthony Joshua, and all that stuff. Tyson Fury was asking for upwards of 80% of the stuff. And then went down to saying, or first it was, I'm only going to fight for $500 million. And then when we get these negotiations, I'm taking everything. And it went, I think it was 75% to 25% for that fight. And a bunch of other different demands that Tyson Fury took or asked for. And Usyk accepted every single one. Knowing at that point in time, Usyk was the more gold-laden fighter that was bringing in the unified championships, that had beaten a more in prime Anthony Joshua twice and ran through most of the top 10 in this division. While Tyson Fury had fought Dillian White for the third or fourth time, had rematched Derek Chisora for the fourth time. And it was clear, even if we want to say that Tyson Fury is the bigger named star, that it was egregious that he was demanding and asking for that much. But because of the opportunity that was set in front of him, that Usyk deserved, we saw Usyk take all of the lowball offer, take all of what was an undeserved, lopsided situation. And because of that, we are now calling him what we call him as now, which is one of the best heavyweights of our generation. And even though he almost lost the week over Verhoeven, he got paid an immense bag for a fight that had no business being that type of fight, simply because you went and you beat Tyson Fury twice. The sacrifice on the front end led to now work that isn't even deserved to be called work is getting you paid a boatload of money. But you went and took, even if it was an unfair front end deal, you went and took that. And then now we saw the ripple effects, what happened afterwards. We saw what came about because you went and tried to be great. Yes, you didn't get what you deserved initially, but you got more than what you deserved afterwards because you deserved it, because that willing sacrifice set you up to be the guy. Devin Haney took that multiple times, willing sacrifice to be the guy. David Benavidez, he's been saying against Canelo, I will take the baseline of $5 million flat for a fight that could be worth $400 million. We're fighting against Canelo. But that's just because I want this. I want the fight. Give me this opportunity to take this crown. Because once I wear that crown of I beat the face of boxing at that point in time, I can demand whatever I want against anybody with whoever. Because now I'm that guy. That title now allows me to make up whatever I would have lost in the fights afterwards because I'm deserving that much. I did it. There's no other way anybody can say anything else to not give me whatever I desire because I'm now both bringing in that much money and I got the win to validate, okay, yeah, we can't say no. The sacrifice on the front end, though, not because we want you to sacrifice, but because the bigger picture allows for you to get yourself propped and positioned to achieve that great stuff. That's all I'm saying. And that's what I don't want Keyshawn Davis to have had let slip through his fingers. Does he deserve more than 25%? Sure. Does he deserve more than just the $3 million, even that was offered by the likes of Devin Haney, by Devin Haney Promotions first? Sure. Absolutely. At the same breath, though, was it smart for him to say, even though I'm not getting as much as I deserve, I don't need to take the fight, knowing that this is an opportunity of a lifetime, that regardless of the result, it can still set you up to make more, especially if you win. People are, it's going to hurt them. I strongly believe it's going to hurt him. I strongly believe it's going to hurt him. Because we're looking at a fight that just, it's gonna, you see the reputation, and you see some of the concern, and you see some of the, not even some, a lot of the trepidation now. And what, even with people saying he deserved more now against Devin Haney. Any other fight going forward, they're going to be saying, can we even trust him to have this much money? Because he might not even cross the line against these other fighters, all because you didn't take this guy. That's why I'm saying this might hurt. That's why I'm saying this might hurt him. This might hurt him. I'm very concerned because I don't want it to be the case, but it might. It might. Let me see. Yep, Tank got 100 million for Ryan. Yes, he did. Benavidez beats the brakes off of Canelo. It's going to be so bad. I mean, I hope so. But like I said, it will be what. Now, granted, now, that same need to say, okay, I would have taken $5 million, just give me that fight because I want that opportunity. At this point in time, I think Benavidez would be inclined to ask for more, and the public would say, yeah, he deserves more, and the negotiation table would also say, okay, he deserves more money than just $5 million because he went about, staked his claim, got his own resume, got his own legacy, moved through the ringer in the world of boxing, and is now a champion at a weight class that Canelo wouldn't even sniff. So, this cat, that big time cut of the pie, he'll get more. But the point still stands. Like, even if you think Benavidez would get beat, Benavidez is getting all that money now because he fought people, even if it wasn't for as much money. With the notion of, this is leading to something bigger. And right now for Keyshawn Davis, he's so young in his career, and he still is, again, phenomenal. It would be remiss if he didn't go and take these opportunities to say, at 27, 28, whatever the case may be, I've already been in the ring with somebody this big. So by the time 2 years down the line or 1 year down the line, shoot, by my next fight, I am in a whole new stratosphere of monetary and marketing value, simply because I have Devin Haney on my list. Simply because of that. Simply because of that. Most of the time, boxing is either a cash out or a build up to cashing out. And when it comes to a young fighter's career, look at Xander Zayas. And this will be the last point before I leave. Xander Zayas took a fight with Boots Ennis at 23, early. Second youngest boxer in the world. This man hurt Boots Ennis in round 3. And people are still talking about that one moment as one of the most poignant moments in his career. Yes, he got beaten, he got knocked out. But he had so many fans made because of that fight. And his willingness to take that fight. That now he has set himself up to say, hey, I've been in the ring with Boots. And I was the first guy to really potentially push this cat. By the time I'm 26, simply because of that notion, who knows where the world I could be because of the opportunities I will get, all because I fought Boots early. And I've showed a respectable performance in said fight, even though I got beat. I'm already establishing a foundation that not just am I always about business, not just am I always about pushing the needle, but I've already gotten one of the faces of the sport in my repertoire before I even hit my prime. And when I do hit my prime, with me already being successful, I can demand more stuff than ever. Because I showed my stuff early. And 2, y'all know I'm going to be a star if I keep on winning. So, I'm even further establishing the bag. I can get more off rip against anybody. Against most. Against most. But it's because he took that risk early on. We applauded him for it. That's all I wanted to see from Keyshawn Davis with this fight. Because that's the future that can come about if you just took that opportunity. Now, it's going to be a lot harder, potentially, to get these same opportunities again. All because even if you were worthy of more money, you didn't take the chance to set the foundation for the future like you should have, with a name that could have elevated everything about you just by you saying, I fought him, so you can't just demand whatever from me. Because you ain't even been in the ring with somebody like him before. I deserve X, Y, Z. That's just flat. That's what I think we could have seen from Keyshawn Davis. But because he didn't, that might hurt him. It just might hurt him for the future. But again, that's just my thoughts and opinions. But we got to go and get out of here because it is we're almost at the 3-hour mark, and we got to make sure that we wrap this show up and send it home. And we're going to have more stuff to talk about on Thursday. But for now, we got to go and let you all go and have yourself a wonderful afternoon and enjoy and get ready for Thursday as well. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this show and send it home with a bang. Yes, indeed. So this has been another episode of The Welch Report with me, your host, Jean-Luc Welch. We thank you so much for tuning in and listening to our show. Hopefully you were entertained. Hopefully you had a bunch of fun. And hopefully you enjoyed our conversation, our debate, and our breakdown in the world of boxing and beyond. If you enjoyed this show, please feel free to go ahead and leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. Come on and join the hottest show in all of the globe right here on YouTube. Hit the notification bell so you know whenever we post right here on YouTube every single day. So rather 3 days out the week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, so that you never miss an episode and you never miss an update on what we got going on If you would be so kind, if you can support this channel monetarily, we have Cash App, PayPal, links down below in the description, super chats, super gifts, stickers, and the like, all for your viewing and listening pleasure. All for your supporting pleasure. If you can come through and help us out, we are funded by viewers like you, just like PBS. We can't do this without your support and without your love. And if you would be so kind, it would help us out so much so to edify this show and make it better for you all to witness and enjoy, and help me to pay some bills, as well as if you do the most important thing, which is to share the show with everybody that you know, so we can keep on building up this empire of a community together and to keep on enjoying all that we can do, or keep on enjoying everything that we got right here on the Welch Report. But I've been Jean-Luc Welch. You all have been absolutely wonderful. Don't forget to listen to us on every podcasting platform imaginable. Be safe, be blessed, peace and love. Oh, we are out of here. Yes, sir. Salute to you. We appreciate you being here on this Tuesday afternoon. Can't wait to see you all on Thursday. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful night. And we can't wait to see you back in a couple days. And we are out of here.